How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of No Excuses on YouTube.com. We're running with a brand new loadout today. So, things are going to be a little janky, and I need to be sure the stream is actually doing what it says it's going to do. So,
It kind of carries the unspoken implication that somehow it wasn't janky last time.
it's even more janky than normal, if you can believe it. I'm just going to quickly... We're running with a brand new loadout today. Quickly check on the stream so that I can hear stuff. You'll hear an echo. It's going to be a little janky, and I need to be sure the stream is actually doing what it says it's going to do. So,
Hello. It kind of carries the...
It appears everything's working.
Fantastic. We'll see how long that lasts. At least it's not storming outside this time.
Yes, although it is threatening to rain, it is not presently storming. Okay, I do not need that any longer. And I do not need that any longer, I don't think, but I will keep it open. No, I won't. That's a lie. I will not keep that open.
Is it the moisture or the electrical interference that balks your internet?
Oh, heck if I know. So, on the show today, we have basically my week and whatever Vol can talk about that went horrible at his work. And then we have a few newslets, and that's about it. We have an email. I'll coin flip on reading it at the time, or if we want to continue to save them for when Fern gets back, so that you don't get us doing your emails. As you can see, we're in Final Fantasy again. I'm at present just hanging out on the beach and making my way to Heaven on High, which we're going to do this week. Because we hit the harder floors in Palace of the Dead, and I have to use brain power for those. And that's not going to work out well for anybody.
No, it won't. So, as you will have heard, we don't have Fern again this week. This is not like a permanent thing. It's just Fern's got a lot on his plate right now, and he's basically been incommunicado for the vast majority of the week. But I think that this is looking like probably the last week that he's going to be completely unable to attend, depending on how things go and how much cleanup they've got to do once he gets back from what he's dealing with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we should have him back as of next week, and I don't know whether he will be able to tell us much about what he's done. I don't know how busy he's been. His schedule seems to have been extremely sporadic over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I've got 2 messages from him this week, and one of them was a single line. You got an empty slot?
Actually, I don't know. Who do I talk to? QSay?
Yeah, QSay.
Let's see. Reset your progress. I do have an empty slot yet.
Yep. So, I'll just go in with Sam. You going in with Dark Knight?
Yep.
All right. Let's start.
Dark Knight is my least favorite tank, so...
Yeah. Gunbreaker has quickly...
Leveling.
Yeah. Gunbreaker has quickly become my favorite.
Yeah, from what I hear, Gunbreaker is the favorite of most people who autismally have to hammer buttons all the time.
Yeah, it's everything has its own special individual OGCD that's all on one button.
Yeah, so it's convenient from a organizational perspective, and also you've got to be joking, and also gives you a lot to do without taking up a huge amount of space on your bars.
Yeah, and
so I can sort of see the appeal.
Yeah, it's a class I very much enjoy, and any size economy class, when it comes to button space, is very valuable to controller players like me, because we only got 8 buttons to push when we hold down a trigger. Otherwise, we got to do stuff with extra fingers. So
yeah.
But yeah, Dark Knight, I totally, and especially pre-level 70 Dark Knight, you just don't have anything.
Yeah, you really don't feel like you're anything other than a really gimp DPS, to be honest. That was always been my impression anyway. I know that there are some Dark Knight diehards who will argue till the cows come home for the class, but all of those same people also feel like Dark Knight has been done dirty. So, yeah, I mean, you could take that either way, really. But, yeah, my favorite is still the Warrior. A lot of people who don't like the Warrior don't like it because they think it's too, simplistic Unga Bunga, but I like it because it's simplistic Unga Bunga, and also I just like the aesthetic. I like the Berserker aesthetic. I've always liked the Berserker aesthetic.
And even more so than the other tanks, doesn't need a healer.
Yes, yes, that's also a thing. It is something that makes me extremely anxious, though, because anytime I do get a heal from a healer, I worry I've done something terribly wrong.
No,
And
you're usually just catching it because it's what we do to the tank on instinct, and we don't process that it's a warrior until the hot's already gone off or the heal's already gone off, or our brain was somewhere else playing with our cards, and we just did it on reflex.
yeah, it's like I'm still sloppy about remembering to hit arm's length compared to most tanks, but I'm getting better. I'm getting better. Although I haven't been playing very much lately because, well, Monster Hunter exists.
So yeah, you may notice you actually have sound this time in the game. It is very, very quiet, so you're not just listening to our wonderful melodious voices the whole time. Golly, I hate my voice. My voice is just even more so.
Everybody hates their voice.
Even more so than normal. Lately, it's just extra ground on me for some reason. Maybe it's just
And
because I've
under
been
what
having to
conditions
listen.
do you even listen to your voice?
Whenever we record stuff and I have to do sound testing.
Oh yeah, I guess you've got to do the sound checks, but yeah, everybody hates their voice because it's sort of like it's the uncanny valley effect, right? It's very close to what you expect, but not quite, because you can't feel any of the resonance in your bones, as it were.
Yeah. In case you're wondering, yes, I did find a way to work heels into this year's swimsuit from the Moonfire event.
They're not default. What does
Nope.
it have by default, like sandals?
Yeah, sandals. But you won't catch me dead without heels if I can help it. In any video game.
Yeah, I saw a discussion online about the reason why Proto Merlin and Merlin have the same stat line in the Fate universe, except that Proto Merlin is a C agility rather than a C plus. The reason given is that she wears heels. This is what has been concluded by the fan base.
I see. Yeah, I have an obsession with trying to find the perfect heeled shoes for my girls in my games, and I conveniently had a pair for this year's swimsuit that kind of worked. So yeah, we're just gonna be going through Heaven on High. It's the first floors you can sleep through, so we're just gonna be doing that and talking about our weeks. And I've got quite a bit of stuff that to talk about later, but Vol, you haven't mentioned much about what you've done, so why don't you go for it?
No, it's largely because I haven't done very much. It's been kind of a rough week in a lot of ways, due to staffing ups and downs at work and the collision of all the ILCPs at once. So in New Zealand, to maintain your accreditation as a commercial laboratory, you need to prove that you are, in all of your testing, your results are within one standard deviation of the same test conducted by any other accredited lab in the country. And the way that this is traditionally done is via ILCPs, inter-lab comparison programs. And so that basically means that you have to, on a certain, with a certain basis of regularity, you have to perform basically model tests for every single test that you do in the laboratory, for every single matrix. And by matrix we mean like sample type, like let's say a matrix might be seawater, or it might be cheese, or it might be meat, or something like that. Those are sample matrices. So you've got to perform every test on every matrix with a certain regularity, and then that will be compared in a pool with every other commercial laboratory to prove that everybody who is accredited performs their work in roughly the same way. So unfortunately, everything for two really big ILCPs got all piled into one day this week past. And the thing with ILCPs is that by their nature, they have to be positive samples. That is to say, there has to be a count for enumerating bacteria. There has to be a positives where it's just detection. And the thing with food testing laboratories is that normally what you're expecting is negatives, right? Because it's food. You don't want lots of positives. That would be a bad thing. it would say that there was like systematically bad quality control in your food industry in your country as a whole if you were routinely getting lots of positives. So you don't want to see that. That's a bad thing. And as a result, in a commercial lab, generally speaking, your testing capacity is balanced around the vast majority of samples having no positives, or only a modest count of non-pathogenic stuff and basically nothing that's pathogenic and whatnot. There being pathogens in food is obviously a big deal, so there's a huge amount of confirmatory testing required should you get positives. ILCPs always have positives. So basically this means that you've got this big glut of disproportionately high workload testing that will all come through at once on the same day. And this causes the entire week to back up with huge amounts of mucking around, basically. Things that normally you would be able to brush aside because, oh, well, it's clean, there's nothing worth counting here, we'll just do this one simple test. Oh, no, you've got to do every test. So that means, oh, well, you have to do staff according to ISO, you have to do staff according to APHA, you have to do staff according to GB standards, you've got to do staff in detection and staff in enumeration, according to all the different standards used internationally, with the objective of getting the same sodding result on a sample that's synthetic and not even real. And so basically that's a long way of saying my workload this week was bonkers. And I would just sort of stagger in the door after work, flop down in my chair, and then regret the fact that I flopped down in the chair because now I now have to get up and shower and eat food and that kind of thing. And then I would just pass out. So I haven't really done very much. I did play a little bit of FGO because tapping on your phone is a lot less effort, especially since Castoria has entered the equation. That being that I can now basically one-shot every wave in every quest. And in the Oku event, there are lots of one-wave and two-wave quests. So there's a lot of just sort of generalized tapping required in Oku. A lot of people don't like it for that reason, which I feel is 100% justified because structurally Oku's a really abusive event as far as loading screens go. But I got through it in the end. It was much more trivial than last time, thanks to Castoria. I sort of unga-bungered my way through all of the quests and the challenge quest without thinking too much about it. Like, even the challenge quest, I just like, okay, 2 Castorias, Jean Archer, let's go. We'll see how many times she can fire a Noble Phantasm in a single fight. And that's how I got through it. Castoria is definitely OP. Like, as a solution to problems, she solves too many different kinds of problems. The only thing that she can't do is super endurance fights. But her increase to damage output that she imparts to art servants is so significant that she turns a lot of what would otherwise be endurance fights into mid-length fights instead. So yeah, she really has distorted the game. But when you've got limited time to work with, it's actually kind of beneficial for that to be the case. Oh, you're kidding. How did I even find that?
You're an otter.
I am an otter. An otter. But yeah, so I got through that. I enjoy the event, although the event is not like Seraph in tone, in my opinion. Like, Kiara is a creepy character. She's meant to be a creepy character. She is a creepy character, and it's like a certain demographic are big fans of Sesho and Kiara. It is by no means the bulk of the player base are fans of Sesho and Kiara because she is a creepazoid. The same is not true of Kama, and as a result, or resulting from that, depending on the direction that you want to go with your reasoning, the Oku event ends up being a sort of an advert that simps for her. She's just treated, even though nothing she does suggests that you should sympathize with her, the tone is still sympathetic. And that sort of bothers me a bit. Because she doesn't really deserve sympathy.
Well, they're safe to simp for her right now, I guess, since the FBI's a little busy.
Well, I mean, I would like to think that most people don't have her in her child form.
I saw a great many of them when I was doing the Oko event during its
Yeah,
first run.
the reality is that most people do, yes. I usually have her in her middle form because the sort of big boober crazy beast lady on fire is a little bit much, I think. But I don't really use her all that often. I don't have her in the child form. No, thank you. Like, children are not supposed to dress in a provocative fashion. I'm sorry. What is hard to understand about this? She doesn't even have the justification of being in a swimsuit. But although she will when her summer form comes out. But yeah, as far as being sympathetic to her is concerned, I don't really like. I suppose she got a raw deal in Indian myth, but so did basically everybody, because Indian mythology is very much of like the gods don't have to give a toss about anybody. They can do what they want because they live in this weird parallel world where the rules of conduct are suspended, generally speaking.
You can
So,
you can strong, by the way.
oh right, let's get some strength going. But yeah, I don't really like how sort of unnecessarily sympathetic it is toward her. It doesn't seem like it fits the rest of the story. Like if they had her, you
You can
know,
steal too.
if they had decided to make the sympathetic angle to her story something that plays out once she becomes a servant, not before then maybe it would have been easier to swallow. But no, they treat her as sympathetic even while she does nothing to justify sympathy. And that's sort of very difficult to swallow. Like, she's evil. She's doing evil things. She's like super evil. What is hard to understand about this?
Yeah, but she's a lolly while she's doing evil stuff, and therefore, for some reason, the community can just overlook them all.
Everybody knows she's not really a child. She's just borrowing the body of one. And since she's actually a dude, I mean, there are a lot of things that should bother people more than it actually does in that in that plot. But yeah, anyway, I still like the story though because I like the whole sort of highly structural beast mythos. It's something that's I think sort of an intrinsic fascination to a certain type of human being and a not altogether uncommon one. But I mean, because it's the same sort of structure that results in like Gnosticism and that, because making up fantasy stories about the divine is much more interesting than wrestling with the fact that you're incapable of actually understanding it. So that's why people do the former more often. But yeah, it's a fun patch of mythos, and it's likely to get an expansion to it before too long, judging by some of the sort of hints that have come out recently. And by this, I'm talking about the summer event for Japan. Now, they teased this year's Japan summer event quite extensively beforehand, and they have made it quite large compared to previous ones. Oops, I'm not pressing the right buttons to deal with this sort of situation. Um, so they are introducing more than the normal amount of servants. It sounds like, but the first thing that sort of got my goat about it, and a sort of like an emotional objection, was one. The Valkyries are one of my favorite servants. I use them a lot. I think they're adorable. All three of them are adorable. I can't decide which is my favorite. Probably either Thrid or Ortlinder. I'm not a huge fan of Hilda, but that's basically because you don't spend a lot of time with Hilda since she's like the mid stage. And basically, people will either use a character when it's fresh or they'll use it when it's fully upgraded. They don't use it when it's sort of halfway. But so the welfare servant they're bringing in for the new summer event in Japan is the Valkyries as an assassin, except that you have to pick one. You can pick Ortlinder, or you can pick Hilda, or you can pick Thrid. You can't pick all three. And since reruns, when they do happen, only happen one time, there is one Valkyrie who you will never be able to get. And This is extremely infuriating. The other thing is that there is a B-side to all of the three Valkyries, in that they have an alternate form, which is one of the other Valkyries that hasn't featured in the story. Hello, Aristiel, are you there?
Yes, I am here. I'm just making noise by moving stuff on my desk, and I didn't think everybody wanted to hear that.
But yeah, so I'm deeply frustrated by the very thought of not being able to get one of the Valkyries. But I like them. I hope that she turns out to be good, because it would be. I'm a big fan of the Valkyries, and I've toyed with the idea of leveling one of them to 100 for some time. And now there's an extra option to choose from. So, but it's still very frustrating, because if I do that, then there'll be like this one Valkyrie out of the three, or two, I guess, since they will have a B-side Valkyrie. But yeah, so that's that one. And the other servants they're adding a summer version of Eris for some reason. I don't know why. Like, nobody. Let's just say that the Requiem fragment of the fan base is not particularly large, but they seem to be getting disproportionate amount of attention and getting a second version of Eris. But I guess they kind of botched the design of the first version of her, because she's sort of like a really, in an alternate universe where one thing was very marginally different, she would be a premier looping arts lancer. Except that she's not, because her status effect, death, applies before her damage, meaning that she can't get overcharge if she accidentally kills one of the things in the wave. Meaning she's not a reliable looper, and nobody uses her as a result. Because she's like built for looping, except that she can't loop. So maybe that's why they're trying to do Eris again, and this time maybe she will be actually an effective servant. The 5-star in the first wave that's coming with it is Lady Avalon, who is Proto Merlin, essentially. So the girl Merlin, the succubus, who, interestingly, she has a very different personality to mainstream version of Merlin. They're still both sort of like playful and fickle individuals, but Merlin proper is essentially on humanity's side. Like he doesn't like humans individually, but he likes humanity as a whole. He thinks it's very interesting. Basically, Proto Merlin has a subtly different attitude where she doesn't like humans or humanity, but so long as they're entertaining and not going to present too much of a bother to her, she's willing to assist. So she has a very sort of generally hands-off approach to humanity most of the time, unless it would cease to be interesting if she isn't forced to intervene. What does this one do? Anything interesting? I can't remember.
He'll kick you to the wall, and you got to run through him before his AoE finishes, because he'll target a whole half of the room. So just pull him. You're the tank.
I know them.
You'll understand it right away. Oh, and don't stand in yuck.
Yeah, the description that I've heard of her behavior is that rather than Merlin in the proper continuity, where he sort of trained Artoria to be a warrior and a king, I've heard Proto Merlin's approach has been to, what would people say? She basically yeets Arthur at all her problems. That's the extent of her intervention. So she just expects Arthur to just solve problems for her, and will just push him in the general direction of anything that needs to be dealt with without any real fanfare or instruction. So yeah, so she's a bit of a flighty broad, as it were. But of course, she's absolute waifu bait. Like, her design is absolutely gorgeous in all of her ascensions, because that's sort of her job, is to sell Saint Quartz.
But use her sucky bitch nature to steal the hearts of the gacha players.
Yep. But this is her being a arcade only character has been a huge point of contention. and this is basically them rectifying that for many dollars. Her kit is nuts. It's basically the same as Merlin's, but for arts. And arts already has Castoria. So it's not exactly the same as Merlin's. In some ways, it's more powerful, and in some, it's less powerful. Merlin is of course, for Buster, and he has a higher emphasis on stability. His heal and NP charge, oh goodness, his heal and NP charge goes off for 5 turns, and his heal is what scales with NP level. Whereas with Proto Merlin, her heal and charge only go off with for 3 turns, and her NP charge scales with NP level, meaning she gets dramatically more effective as you get more copies of her. Which, number one, is very cynical, but number two also means that basically she will be better the shorter a fight is, and original Merlin will be better the longer a fight is. So they both still have their applications, although I feel that on balance there are more fights to which Proto Merlin will apply than Merlin. However, of course, there's not really Proto Merlin has to compete with Castoria as the short version. Like, there needs to be a good reason to use him. And also, like, why they gotta keep marginalizing Tamamo? Because adding sustainability to a Castoria comp was what Tamamo did. And now she's got, like, the most unbelievably stiff competition you could imagine. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Poor Tamamo. I guess Buster has gotten 2 new Tamamos, so... and, you know, Koyan Sky of Light, Koyan Sky of Darkness. But, yeah, so, yeah, her kit is nuts. Gareth has gotten a new saber form, which is, from what I can tell, a very, very solid saber. It's not going to change the meta in any way. It doesn't really look like, based on my quick look over, but it does look like a very solid AoE saber. Who else have they added? They haven't revealed details of the other ones that are coming, but Ruler Skadi is going to be added. I expect there are a lot of people who are hoping desperately that she's going to be a Quick focused support, since Quick badly needs help at the moment, and, well, that's what Skadi is known for.
You can be strong.
Strong. Time for some strength. And the other one they're adding that I've seen is Caster Wu. So Wu Zetian is going to get a caster form. Except she all growed up, yo.
Oh, she finally not the FBI bait to try and keep them out of Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah. So it's still done in it's still done by the same artist, so it's Disgaea art style. But she's certainly a lot more stacked than she once was. But there's no details have been released on. How do I keep finding these?
No, you didn't grab the strong chest after you got the strong.
My goodness.
It's okay.
Always with the otter. I can't think of what the others are offhand. I can't remember if they've been announced or not. But it's just the whatchamacallit, Proto Merlin and Gareth are the ones that are, all the details are out so far. I think. But yeah, it's hopefully it's not going to distort the meta too much. But since Proto Merlin's not like explicitly stronger than Castoria, so that's one thing in her favor, and she's got slightly longer cooldown on one of her abilities, and not quite as good in the long term, but the added healing basically means that she pairs perfectly with Castoria to make arts even more bonkers. So, yeah. The meta in while arts hasn't dropped out of the meta in Japan, it's still probably dominant for most sort of general purpose applications. The fact that Buster in Japan's servant roster can triple loop under certain conditions, and Buster just being a much more unga bunga way of playing, have basically mean that they lead the meta for a lot of common farming applications at the moment, where Arts had sort of unilateral domination before. Now Buster can compete. Quick, on the other hand, still, resides in the dust and honestly needs to be rethought from scratch, because trying to make Quick catch up when it's acting on a sort of 20% penalty the entire time compared to other ways of playing is there's not really much to be done, I guess. But, yeah. Yeah, so that's basically what's going on in the FGO. I don't know what event is coming next. I would say it's probably Scatfest, the unfortunately named. I think people have taken to calling it Shisho Fest to avoid calling it Scatfest, which is an improvement, but anything would be.
Yeah.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that it might be the debut of the Grail Front style event, which is probably the most popular of the main types of event. So
that the board game one?
Yeah. I don't actually know how it works at all, so I'm gonna have to read some guides to find out how you're supposed to use them efficiently. But because it's a lottery event, lots of people will be doing guides on it, regardless of whether or not it's actually a Grail Front event. So you should be able to get good information on that, which is good, because now that my roster has filled out a bit and I've got access to Castoria, who's currently dominating the meta, there are a lot more optimal comps are within my capability now. Still, I'm missing some because there's certain characters I don't have, like Kiara was extremely powerful in the current event due to her sort of alter ego class and the majority of farming stages being cavalry classes, so unfortunately I didn't have access to her, but what I did have was Base Ishtar, who is mostly class agnostic, being an Avenger, and so I was able to exploit that relentlessly. Yeah, so that was pretty simply done, and I don't know how hard I'm going to go on the lottery, because there's not really a huge amount of benefit for me going hard on a lottery these days. Like, the only reason to do it would be to pile 1 million EXP embers into my Kiahime. That's pretty much the only reason, because I don't have a shortage of QP anymore due to Vegas this year and Vegas last year allowing me to build up a reasonable reservoir. And since I'm pretty much in savings mode on the gacha, there's not really any need for me to spend for... How is this possible? How am I an otter again? I was standing right next to you.
Just be adorable.
But yeah, so I'm in savings mode. Next thing I'm going to be pulling for is Himiko, who is like the queen of turtling. And just basically it's a useful team to have in your arsenal. And then after that, things are going to get a bit more murky, because there's quite a few servants that I kinda want, and only kinda. Like, Muramasa would be good to have, but he's also a Shiro face and an icky boy.
Mm-hmm.
So meta extremely effective and an icky boy, so what are you going to do? I do definitely want a second copy of Space Ishtar, simply because her flexibility as a utility player goes up massively if you get her to NP2.
Actually, we got one of these. We're sighting it. We don't need to murderize the whole room, but we do need to get all the chests. Actually, I'm gonna pop a fortune.
But yeah, what was I talking about? It probably wasn't important. Yeah. Anyway, FGO's a thing. It continues to be a thing. It will continue to be a thing.
For the
But
record, these rooms are known as BFRs for big effing room. When you get this type of floor, I did not make this one up. Abo made that one up, but I actually liked one of the names he gave something once, so I let him keep it. So if you ever hear me refer to a BFR, this is what I'm talking about. But yeah, so you got in FGO right now. Is there when's the next main story coming out for it?
who even knows? Like, I think it's like a halfway through next year or something.
Yeah, it's a long
There,
because we're in
it
Kufir
is the
now, aren't we?
content, huh?
We're in Kufir time for them now, aren't we?
Basically, yeah. There were huge delays, and like I mentioned on a previous show, at this stage, their production pipeline had well and truly imploded, and they were just desperately trying to keep things ticking over. The the next chapter is released piecemeal in like I think 3 different segments or something. It's all one chapter, unlike Atlantis Olympus, but it was released in segments. Although its script is apparently quite long. But they really are in this point where they suffered quite a lot of attrition in the player base in Japan, simply due to the sheer sort of fatigue of not really having enough new content to keep people interested, because everybody wants to see where the story is going to go, quite naturally. That's just the way it is. But they didn't have the production pipeline to handle it, and I think that it was sort of in this stage their model of constantly having interlude chapters started to develop, because they, and by interlude chapters in this case I mean in the main story, not the character interludes, because they couldn't really commit to developing the main story, because the main story sort of drives everything else that can be done, in the sense of like, oh well, you use the main storyline as your sort of guideposts for what is in the lore Bible that is allowed to be incorporated into events and other content, and what servants are allowed to be introduced, and so on. So it's sort of having the development teams sort of out of sync kind of impeded the development of the rest of the game in a lot of ways. Ouch.
Oh, what happened to you?
A chest happened to me.
Oh.
But yeah, so it's going to take a while for them to get the next story chunk out, I think. I don't know, maybe that they've been more aggressive at changing up the differences between, really? Good grief. Between the different servers lately. Like the order in which we've gotten these last few events has actually been different to the way it was done in Japan. I'm not quite sure what sort of model they're moving with, but what is known is that the slow paced release approach with big gaps in content that was done in Japan, they know that it was bad for attrition. So maybe they just won't pace them in the same way. They'll probably have the same amount of content in the same amount of time, but they might bring it out at a different pace that causes less attrition in the player base. That's speculative though, but it would make sense since they are interested in making money, and while you can't measure it, I would say that they almost certainly lost money over the course of the slow content drought period in the Japanese server. But yeah. Haven't made any progress in Pinecone, really. I keep forgetting to do what do they call them? Intimacy episodes, which is about the worst name they could have given them, if you ask me. I keep forgetting to do those, and they are worth a lot of jewels, so I have to try and remember that. But I leaned a little bit harder on farming gear, but farming gear is frustrating and unrewarding in Pinecone, because you might just like dump all of your stamina for the day trying to get one item built and still fail, even on a double drops campaign. But really, how did I find that?
Pretty sure I found that one.
Oh, did you? Couldn't tell who it was centered on.
Okay, problem solved.
But yeah, so, Pinecone is just.
It's
I'm
can
glad it requires no effort
it
to
is the
play.
can
Like,
it's the can game for a reason.
yeah, like it would. I gather that the vast majority of the player base does play it as a side game, except for that narrow subset of extremely sweaty clan battle people
Yeah, the
who
autists.
are perhaps best not regarded as actual people.
Yeah, you can only express your turbo autism so much before you cross a line.
But yeah, Nenica has not been the solution to all my problems yet. But I also haven't. I haven't really set aside the time to sit down and actually build teams for her because it's a lot of effort, man. Actually sitting down and playing Pinecone is a lot of effort because there's a lot of crap that needs to be done. It's much easier to put it on maintenance mode and just not do very much. But yeah, it is what it is. Uh haven't really watched much in the way of anime. The only things I'm watching this season are the fourth season of Overlord and the aforementioned Ruby. I guess you could call it a remake. It's not really a spin-off, and it's not quite a remake either.
Animated
But
traditional 2D version,
yeah, but it's
2DV.
a different story. It's also a better story. Uh, but yeah, I'm sure that there are. It boggles the mind, and I see it all the time that there is actually this extremely diehard contingent of people who genuinely think that Ruby is a great show. But I don't know. That seems very weird. I don't know what people see in it, but yeah, that original one, the writing is garbage, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Oh crap! I stepped on a landmine when we had
You can
auto
just
heal.
cleanse it, can't you?
We don't have any serenities. No, I can't. I can't get rid of auto heal to save them.
Can I give you anything that will allow you to, like, if I give you, can I give you Blackest Night? Is that a thing that you can do with a Dark Knight? I haven't played one before. It's a thing.
I think you can give me obviation at 80, but we're not 80. That's
And I'm
okay.
not 80. Not even slightly 80.
I'll just pull very carefully and I'll let you open the chests. Yes, you can. In
I don't know
fact,
if it's any actual benefit to you, but
okay, I'll let you go open all the chests in there. I'm not touching them.
yeah, when I get blown up,
You'll live with a sliver of your health. They do 80% of your total health and damage. Landmines do 80% of your current health, so landmines can't actually deal the killing blow to you unless something helps them along. Oh wait, I know
yeah.
what I can do to fix this problem. I'm a genius.
Good old bloodwetting, eh? You're looking a little bit healthier now.
Okay, let's get off this floor. Okay.
Yeah, I did continue watching the traditional animated Ruby, and it's still good. Like, I'm still enjoying it. It's not like the best thing ever or anything. It's not going to be a standout show, but I don't know how much of it is me thinking that it's actually good and me contrasting it with the original material. It is. The new one is, in spite of the praise that I've given it, it is still very Shaft. Very Shaft. So there's a lot of extreme close-ups and neck tilting.
Do they have the backwards behind the head neck tilt? Has that happened yet?
Yes, yes, it has. It's not as exaggerated as you often see in things like Bakemonogatari and in Fate. What was it? Last Encore
Or Modica?
or Madoka. Although I don't remember much about Madoka since it was so boring, but the It's all the shaftisms are intact. All the environments have that same sort of very shiny, surreal look to them. If you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Everything's modeled in 3D.
kind of looks like you're in a dream a little bit.
Yeah, everything is like that. And the characters have a very distinctive look that you'll see in all their drawing style for Bakemonogatari is very evident here. I suppose the one of the thoughts I didn't expect to have was the sort of like the "oh no, she's hot" impression, because all of the characters in Ruby are just hideous mannequins, right, in the original material.
Mm-hmm.
But they actually managed to, and Shaft actually manages to really bring out a lot of charm in the character designs in their version of it. Like, I found that nothing about Weiss's design in the original was at all appealing. And like normally the princessy white-haired pretty girl would be right up my alley. And like Weiss was a hard pass in the original material, but no, they make her look really good in the 2D style where it's done by artists who actually know what they're doing.
You know,
And this is true of all the characters. They all look so much better when they're done by a competent artist, not a amateur 3D modeler.
you mean instead of some dude in a garage in Texas working off of Monty's sketchbook.
Yeah, it's like you can tell like their priority was finding someone who could like actually realize the storyboards. It wasn't actually making it look good, which is why Ruby doesn't look any better than Dead Fantasy. Which was I mean that project was never done with the intention of making any money, and Ruby was sort of supposed to make money. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
Monty went on the Rooster Teeth podcast back in the day and said that everything in Ruby was designed just to make cool fight scenes that he could animate. Everything from the world building to the characters to the way stuff works, and even the universe mechanics. It all was set up just so he could make cool fight scenes.
yeah. I mean, like all you need to do is look at the way things are done. Generally, nobody in real life, and I'm using real life very loosely here. Nobody in real life would make a melee weapon with moving parts the way that they do. It's just you don't do it because it'll break. What does this thing do? Is it gonna instantly kill us or mind control us or?
Stay away from the edges of the room and don't stand in yuck. Yeah, he doesn't do anything. Just don't stand in yuck and don't be near the edges of the room. And oh, look away. Forgot about that.
Guama. So this is the same as the one from
Yeah, one of them.
Weeping City or one of those. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, one of
One
them.
of the Mark levels.
Yeah, one of them. He's definitely got a counterpart somewhere.
Lost City of something or other.
Lost City of
don't know.
Manak.
No, it's Weeping City of Manak, Lost City of Amdapur. One
Yeah.
of them is the Alliance raid, though, isn't it?
Yeah, Weeping City's the Alliance raid.
Yeah. Anyway, I keep forgetting how many buttons I've got that I've just got to keep hitting. Whenever I've got to do a look mechanic, I always find myself, I turn away and then I multiply tap the button to go forward, just to make sure that the server and my character both think that they're going the same way.
If I turn around, I'm going to take that step forward anyway because I'm using a controller. If I move the stick to turn around backwards, I'm taking a half step in that direction at least.
Yeah, if you mouse turn, you have no way of knowing if the server actually thinks that you turn that way, because until you move, it's not going to decide on a facing. And even if you're facing away, if you use an ability that would face you towards the boss, even if your character doesn't turn because you're holding a button down, the server will think that you're facing the boss if the last thing you did was attack it.
Yeah.
There's lots of real annoying barbs to how it works. But, can't have everything. But yes, I'm still watching that series. It's not particularly grand, but it's not bad. And contrasting with the previous work, holds up real well. character designs actually look nice in this context. A lot of the sort of weird mannequinisms that the other ones had are gone. I suppose that the scene to me that is most iconic for Ruby's visual style, the original Ruby's visual style, is the cookie eating scene in that first episode or second episode, I don't remember,
Oh,
where
yeah.
the Ozpin brings in a plate of cookies for Ruby who's being interrogated, and she starts gobbling them down, and she basically is picking them up in her hands without actually holding on to them, putting them in her mouth, at which point they just disappear.
Yeah. The other indicative part is them trying to be too anime with them first arriving at the academy. And just Ruby's generic anime isms throughout that don't fit the 3D art style at all.
Yeah, and they're all completely purged from the Shaft version. Like there is no such content. That was very obvious to them. Like I bet they cringed when they saw the source material that they were working from, because it's really horrible. Got the accuracy down even though I was facing away again.
It's my turn to be adorable.
I can't hit this thing because my accuracy is so low. Blood Spiller misses. Blood Spiller hits. Blood Spiller misses.
Blackest Nitro Self. I will be unadorable in 7 seconds. I'll be slightly less adorable.
Great.
Yay.
You gotta step on another one.
Yep. Oh, I already got the one in this room. It'll be in the next room.
Keep forgetting that grit turns off every time.
Yeah, I've been thinking about reminding you, but you've been on a roll every time I remembered that you don't have tank stance on.
But yeah, that's a thing. I still haven't been. I once more last night I looked through the list of things for the season, wondering if there was something that I could watch, and the conclusion to that question was no. Instead, a couple weeks ago, I managed to salvage my missing package of anime Blu-rays, which has, as far as I am able to tell, it was just sort of rotting in the postal service for more than 2 months. And then once I actually put in a formal request and called up the postal service to locate it, it got delivered like day after next. So, yeah. Occasionally, you do get lucky, and things that get lost in the postal service are still locatable. It's just that nobody's asked after them. Evidently. I don't know if USPS does that, or whether USPS will say F you.
If I show up at the post office and stuff ain't in the P.O. box, I'll chew their faces off and they'll get it sorted right away, but I usually don't have to do that. I've had to do that maybe twice in my whole career.
Yeah, I've had differing sort of opinions voiced to me on the topic of USPS. Like, there seem to be a certain subset of boomer Americans who basically worship the postal service.
Yeah,
In a sense that sort of reminds me of the way the British sort of worship their health system.
yeah. I mean, USPS is not the worst of all the national postage services, but you're gonna use FedEx or UPS if you got the option.
Yeah, there's some stuff that I want to import from.
Finally,
America.
we got a Magicite.
Some stuff I want to import from America, and I'm like, I don't know. They're all very, very expensive because I'm importing something expensive and somewhat heavy for its size. We're looking at sort of like $80 in shipping to begin with because it's specialist printing. Because what I want to get a hold of is a full size Vulgate with side by side English and Latin for study purposes, and getting those printed is hard enough as it is. They don't print that many of them because not many people want to buy one. Getting it shipped to New Zealand is very expensive. But since they're all very expensive, all the shipping options, I'm like trying to decide which service is going to be the more reliable one. And if it goes missing, who is more likely to be able to find the darn thing. And so it's looking like probably FedEx is going to be the way to go. But I don't know. I've heard bad things recently about FedEx. Like they've recently had some downturns in their quality, but sort of the idea was on ice during that period of time where people were using the COOF as an excuse to not do their jobs
Yeah.
because they basically didn't trust any service during that time because they, in a sense, they wouldn't be expected to take responsibility for anything, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
not.
let's say they lost a package of mine, they would just be like, "Oh well, sorry, we can't fix it because COOF."
Yeah, they'll use COOF to explain everything. Their staff shortage will be the reason they can't tie their shoes in the morning if they can get away with it.
Yeah, I'm not very amused by that whole period of time where nobody wanted to take responsibility for anything. I hear the CDC has radically changed their stance though, as
I
of recently.
I haven't been keeping up with what a bunch of liars say because it's probably just lies.
Well, no, what their stance is that they are taking the official position that there is no difference between a vaccinated and an unvaccinated person, which is still not true, because the people who got the clot shot now have the clot shot in their system and they can never get rid of it. But from a legal standpoint, it is now returned to you can't mandate vaccination. I
Yeah,
mean, as a private business, you could, but that would just be dumb.
yeah, the governments can't, which is the important part.
Yeah. But yeah, who knows how long that'll last. I also saw a clip of Anthony Fauci talking about how he is apparently the icon of science and integrity, and how he is the inspiration for lots of people going into medicine and science.
No, that's just what we need.
Like the enormity of the lie that he told is sort of like, I think the universe must have groaned under the strain of something so false being said. Like the karmic shockwave would have been felt in all the neighboring universes as well from somebody telling a whopper with that sort of gravity.
That's the kind of lie that makes the devil say, "Well done, son."
I think it's the kind of lie that the devil says, that's a bit strong in it. Like he was talking about how like there's this whole generation of people going into the sciences who are like, what are they calling it? They had decided that there was this phenomenon called Fauciism or something, which is all people who are inspired by Fauci to become the scientists, scientismists, I guess.
I see.
Like he's got this whole mythos that exists inside his head and in the media about how he's like the new messiah. Kind of hard to believe that people that delusional exist, but I guess they do. Like, I think that the flat earthers are far more logical than he is.
Yeah, if I say anything about Fauci, I'm gonna get us flagged and we're gonna lose the show.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think that Fauci is on the outs with the establishment, generally speaking. Like, he's
But is he on
got a
the
certain
outs with Susan yet?
I think that Susan is one of those people who only really serves themselves. It's sort of like my opinion on why Pelosi was never positioned for the executive is because she is utterly self-serving, right? It's because she doesn't follow the ideology. Because the only thing she's interested in is herself. So if it were beneficial to her, she would follow it. But she's not going to push it because she's only going to do things that don't endanger her own position. And so she never had a chance at the executive. The establishment would never allow it. So despite the fact that all of her credentials are sort of like the same as the Hillarys and the Bidens of the world, she didn't get to touch the executive because she would use that position exclusively to enrich herself and not to move forward the New World Order or any of that crap. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. That's the sort of person she seems to be. I mean, she did cause a massive international incident with China simply because she wanted to improve the stock options on on semiconductors. It's pretty spectacular. Like, I think that's probably the single largest act of selfishness that I've seen during my time on Earth.
Certainly for a politician.
Yeah. It's almost impressive in its scopes. Like, you were actually willing to cause a massive multinational, international incident involving several countries purely because you wanted to improve your stock options slightly. That's incredible. Like, you got to hand it to her. If you're a libertarian, you can't really criticize it, can you? The problem with libertarianism, isn't it? But
Oh, damn it.
really, who would do this, Chief?
The guy that put that trap in front of the door. Obviously. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I'm useless for several seconds. Oh, not quite. I have 65 juice, so I can do a few instants. Those don't count, apparently.
Oh, crap. I tried using delirium to see if I could. Ah, here we go. Here we go.
We unsilenced in the right.
Just in time.
Yeah, I'm actually. We don't need to kill any of the extra crap I'm killing, and we could be moving on, but the floors here get harder faster, so just to have buttons to push, I'm just
pushing buttons whenever you have stopped moving for any length of time. But I'm not concentrating on even what buttons I'm pushing, which is why I can't even carry off a 1-2-3 combo right now. Really?
Are you adorable?
I'm adorable.
Oh, let's go to the load screen.
Yeah, what was I doing? Oh yeah, so I managed to retrieve those DVDs, which was just some random ones that I bought because they were having a big discount at the distributor for anime in Australasia. And one of them I got was Goblin Slayer, so I watched that again because I like seeing goblins get killed horribly.
Of course we get no items on the floor that has a strong right there.
A what?
There was a strong in that chest, but because we have no items, I can't use the strength and pick it up.
Oh, I see. But yeah. So Goblin Slayer, I've seen the movie that came out after the series as well. But were they ever planning to do another season? I can't even remember because they finished the series by saying Goblin Slayer will return, which is sort of like the generic. We are totally going to make a pitch to do a sequel series. Mm-hmm. But they did do the movie, so I don't know if that counts. Maybe it does. And this first season actually closes out really well. Like they make it seem like a story that you could easily do another arc to. However, the story is quite comfortably finished here. He's going to leave the horde behind.
Oh, I was chasing the patrol before he got too far away.
Well, I'm debuffed to heck and back, so...
So Goblin Slayer.
But, yeah. It's still fun to watch, I think, provided that you don't have too higher expectations. But it's I can't. It seems somehow very tame compared to what I remember the furore about it was. I can't do anything to help you. I had no abilities until just now.
Where's the revival thing? It's in that room in there. So
okay.
Kill stuff in the room we were just in, and find the revival thing.
I've never actually used it before.
You just gotta click on it.
Kill everything?
No, just find it and click on it.
I don't see it. I legit don't see it.
Oh, not that room. Never mind. I can't read the map.
Aristeal.
I'm turned at a wonky angle on the stairs, okay? It is in where the top room on the map.
Right, okay. Yeah, actually you are positioned weirdly on the map. Oh man, this room is full of crap.
You just
The
got
pedestal on which corner? Oh man, it's got every friend here.
stupid no item floor. Here I am mashing my potion button. That doesn't work on no item floors. I'm thinking it's an early floor, so obviously it still works. I'm not going to get no itemed on an early floor.
Yeah, as I remember the furore that happened when Goblin Slayer anime came out, and now when I go back and watch, it's like, yeah, so there's a couple of scenes that are kind of grim, and Priestess does wet herself a couple times, but man, but when Goblin Slayer came out, it was sort of like at the heights of the opening chapter of the modern culture war, like it was sort of the Gamergate era.
Yeah.
And so everything was something that was going to be the site of a pitched battle between the SJWs and everyone else. But now looking at it, it's like, this is really kind of tame. Apparently the manga is a lot more gratuitous, and so is the original source material, but I'm not really having any interest in that. But as it as it plays out in the anime, it's just a sort of like a fun fantasy story. It's not even especially dark, in my opinion. Like the heavy implication behind it is the sort of stuff that is dark, and the sort of thing that the feminists of that era would have been very upset about, like the all but stated implication that kidnapping and raping nubile young women is the entire method of reproduction for the goblin species. But that's just sort of like an over-the-top fantasy trope. That's not really something worth getting upset about. But then again, they wouldn't be SJWs if they waited for a thing to be worth it getting upset about, would they? But yeah, so I rewatched that just for the fun of it, because I like rewatching old things. You really good at finding those, aren't
Thank
you?
goodness lane mines only do percentage damage.
This one. Oh,
No. No. Treasure chests can kill you. If they do 80% of total health, not 80% of current health. So be very careful opening silver chests if you're low on health.
yeah, I think there were three other things in that package that I got. One of them was the third season of Log Horizon. I have the other two on Blu-ray as well, which is a series that I kind of like. Third season was a little bit weak, but largely weak because it was short, and they didn't get into some of the stuff that I felt needed a bit more careful attention. But then I have no idea where that series is going. Last I checked, they'd slowed down the release of the English versions of the books, and I don't know if the books are even still being written, because last I heard, the guy that was writing them got convicted for tax evasion.
I see.
I wonder about things like that, though, with the way the light novel industry works. It's possible that there's actually tax evasion taking place, and the author obviously thought he was very clever, but he was actually just trying to skim a few extra dollars, etc., etc. You know, the conventional small-time tax evasion sort of thing. But, you know, most of the people, I don't know anything about the guys actually writing the books, and most of the people who
You can be strong.
write light novels, most of the people who write light novels are not, like, super clued up. They're just sort of like amateur writers.
Yeah, even
And if you got like bad advice on how to file your tax return, and you suddenly were the author of a best-selling published work, like, how do you make sure that your taxes are all squared away if it doesn't occur to you, oh, I'm sort of in business now, I need an accountant?
yeah. Here's the thing. When it comes to small businesses, especially anything that isn't a megacorp that has the funds to hire somebody with the proper expertise, they probably are filing their taxes wrong and could be busted on tax evasion. You'll remember that's what they got Al Capone for.
Well, that was because they couldn't get him on anything else.
Yeah, because everybody files their taxes wrong.
Is that deliberate? Like, I when you look at tax codes in any given country, it seems like it's just set up in order to make sure people do it wrong to give the government an excuse to audit you when they need to punish you.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way as somebody that has to deal with the finances of a small business.
Because I mean, like, Biden just hired those what, like 87,000 or whatever new auditors. I have a funny feeling that they are a knife aimed directly at the throat of red state small business.
Oh, they're free to come for me. I've got a mountain of paperwork they can sift through because I keep physical copies of my stuff, and I'm not giving them the digital version. If they want the physical version for security reasons, I can demand they be the only copy, and they need to get their butts in their little car and drive down here.
I mean, it's still a huge hassle though.
And I will call them. I almost said a really no for YouTube word the whole time they're here, and you know I would.
But
It starts with an
yeah.
F.
But yeah, I do feel like the whole purpose of like the IRS audit system is purely to be punitive to small business because they never seem to discover anything when it's big businesses that get their mandatory audits. And you know, to some extent, that's because big businesses are very clever. But the reality is that everybody operating in finance at that level probably know each other.
Yeah, and you got your lawyers at that point that can also get involved because big corpos can hire lawyers to fight the government. Small business doesn't have that kind of cash.
Yeah, I don't like the tax system in general. In any country, they all seem to play out the same, especially in Anglophone countries.
There's a reason why Zacchaeus was a wee little man and nobody liked him because of his tax man.
Well, I mean, there are other reasons why the tax collectors weren't liked in first century Palestine. Largely because they were sellouts. Like the tax farming was the way that it often worked in the provinces. Like the right to collect taxes would be sold off to people who were in the area who could do it. So it was usually a case of, oh well, the people who are collecting the taxes, they would be on our side, but they chose to take Roman coin in order to persecute their own people.
Yeah, but still, yeah, they'll take Chinese coin to persecute Americans. If you're an American small business owner, government's not your friend. Although, if you're a small business owner, you don't need me to tell you that.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, well, maybe they could be starting out, but the reality is that nobody can afford to start a small business
Oh,
right now.
speaking of the res things
You
right
got
behind it.
reckless. Right behind. Oh, here we go. You got reckless. You thought you could get that treasure. You had smelled the shekels.
I was hoping for a replacement magicite for the one I used in the last one because a freaking treasure room was in the teleporter room. You can pick up that one.
Oh, I was hoping that you would keep running. Yeah, so, and other ones I got for completeness, even though it's not very good, I got the first movie of the Camelot adaptation for FGO, and I also got the anime, the Otome anime. What is it? My
Okay.
next life as a villainess. All routes lead to doom, which I really really like that series, and I don't know why. Normally I would hate something like that, but for some reason I very very much enjoy it.
Alright, for this guy, don't stand in yuck. And he'll target half the room with one AoE does, get out of it. And when he summons the storm clouds, don't run underneath one right away, but look at the shadows to see where you gotta stand on the floor. And once he starts casting his AoE while the storm clouds are out, pick a storm cloud relatively far from him and stand underneath it. So when he finishes his cast, he'll pop you up in the air and you'll go through a storm cloud and pop it so you don't take any damage. But you have to be pretty close to the edge for the one you pick to be your pop target. You'll understand when you see it. There's a whole lot of caveats to it, but at the end of the day, just kill the boss.
He's gonna summon them now, I guess.
Yep, so remember where the circles are. Okay, now go find one to stand underneath near the edge of the room. And don't get antsy on moving out of the microseconds you hit the ground. With your latency, you might be able to get away with moving out of the way,
Oh yeah,
though.
I just sailed straight through the lightning without taking a point of damage. It was fine.
Yeah, for my connection, I have to wait a microsecond. Otherwise, I'll get hit by the lightning. Not that it matters. This guy doesn't do any damage.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why I like that series, but I find it very entertaining. And normally, a series which has a complete moron as the protagonist would drive me nuts. But for some reason, I can tolerate it with Katarina. I think she's really charmingly stupid. But yeah, I think I've probably drawn my non-existent week out as far as it could feasibly be drawn out at this point. So
Alrighty. Well, after this boss, we'll get into my week. He's almost dead. This should kill him. There we go.
yeah,
Give me my pot sherd.
Archered.
My pot sherd. So, the future floors will have to pull relatively carefully. So I'll pull stuff and just get aggro on it as it's running to eat me, and we'll have to do it one at a time. We can't go crazy in the further floors because stuff will kill us if we pull too much. But we can still salvage situations all the way up until about floor 60. So we got 30 more floors before we have to start paying attention.
Right.
And we're gonna get booted out because we gotta. Do you gotta do the cutscene?
I shouldn't. I'm pretty sure I've been up that far before.
All right. So we can just go right back in then. I just loaded way faster than you, so I saw the question mark, which is
Well,
a good.
it's because I hadn't clicked out yet. So
Okay.
because I always forget which ones are controlled by the party leader and which ones I have to click on.
Yeah. So I can send this right back in. Righto. So if that's your week, I guess we can get into my week. I have a bit of stuff to talk about. I'll talk about the work stuff first. Monday through Wednesday was pretty light this week. It ramped up as the week went on and stuff was starting to get heavier by the end of Wednesday. But Thursday and Friday were nightmares at work. And this was just a whole lot of issues with the factory because they're not delivering in the lead time that they told me to estimate to the customer. And I got customers chain calling me going, "Where's my stuff?" And, I don't want to get mad at the customer. I'm a little annoyed with them that they keep calling me after I told them, only so many times. I'll let you know as soon as the factory gets back to me. But
Honestly, I have the opposite problem. Like, I usually leave it too late to call somebody when I want to find out what the status of something I've contracted somebody to provide me with is, and I let them sleep on it too long. I'm too polite about it. I was like, oh well, I mean, I could be being impatient, so I would just won't call them this time, and then I let time string out. Like that's the reason why my package got lost in the postal service for more than 2 months, is because I should have chased up after it after maybe a month and a half, even COVID excuses applying. But yeah, I could have gotten it a lot earlier if I just chased after it instead of thinking, oh well, postal service is slow right now, we'll just give them some time, because it was just sitting there, and it had been sitting there for months. Because when I got the actual details of its progress through the postal service, it had just been sitting doing nothing for months.
yeah, that's if it's a government entity like that, I don't hesitate to call them and bitch them out.
I don't actually know if our postal service is government or not, because I know it was when I was growing up, but the pattern of things in New Zealand is that everything gets continuously shifted between being state-owned and privately owned, depending on who is currently in power.
In that situation, my answer is close enough. Okay, good. We got a match site back. So if it's like the post office or any type of government entity or semi-government entity, I don't hesitate to pester them. I will drive their staff insane. But if it's a private business, I'm usually way more hesitant to call and pester, because you don't know what's going on with them people, unless they just have a bad rap already. And I am the type of customer that if you get a bad reputation with me, it's going to cause you problems. But if you have a good reputation with me, I'll be a perfectly normal and nice customer. But you have to do usually something pretty egregious for me to write your company off as just a lost cause that I'm going to annoy the crap out of. So yeah, there was that, and I'm just stuck playing email tag in the middle of all my other work this week with the factory, going, "Hey, where's this stuff?" and having to stop what I'm doing to go write an email to Tim or call him on the phone, who's our sales rep, our sales manager at the factory, the rep guy for our region, and I go, "Hey Tim, yo, we got 800 people on these different POs and /SO numbers, and I need you to get me an order status pronto."
Is there some deadline coming up or something that they all seem to want this at once?
It's just they're like 2 weeks overdue from the lead time I gave them. It's 10 weeks for two of them. Now the one that's carried over into the next week, that one has got a deadline on it that they didn't tell me about, and that one's their fault. But individual job issues aside, it is just a whole lot of a mess with the supply chain. And it doesn't help that our main supplier, Weil, has been building this new factory they're all so proud of. That also means they had to rework all their staff and had to expand their staff and lay off people and hire new people. And went through a full restructuring because they got bought out by Velo a few years ago. And now they've got this brand new factory, and now they got to staff it and get it set up and get all the people there moving in the right direction. And they're posting all these pictures on their Facebook page about it. I'm like, that's great, guys, but you're still not getting your product out in time. I don't care what you have to do to make it pretty. Pretty comes after functional. Just big corpos in general. I know I rep for them, and they're the biggest company I rep for, but come on. And then, yeah, that's been work. So I have quite a few issues like that carrying on into next week. Other than that, work has just been, in general, at least, when I say I've had a light week, it means a medium week for other years in the business. And I'm doing it with a staff of 2 people. And ever since I assumed these responsibilities. And it's amazing what happens. Because part of it is, yeah, we're getting a whole lot of government contracted work because the COOF gave money out like candy to people from the government. But the other part of it is, we're just getting back to customers. Because I actually respond to people. So I can seal out jobs, and I'll get in my little car and go drive to job sites if I have to. And none of the other employees are willing to do that. It's amazing what happens.
Well, I mean, it's about the basis of employment, really. Like, it seemed to me like your previous staff was basically like they were employed like with a lot of family businesses on nepotism. Like they were just hangers on from your granddad's day.
Yeah, they were literally grandfathered in. So yeah, after that though, where I've just got effectively 2 people working there, and things have just been going smoother. I don't have to run stuff through people. We don't have to pretend other people have responsibilities. I just put all the work on myself and just get in there sometime between 7 and 10, depending on how much work I got to do, and I just go until it's done. Or I go until what's left I can take home, and then I keep going until it's done. And sometimes that's an early day. If I get there early and I manage to beat my work time out, sometimes I can leave at 2. Most days not, but sometimes. And some days I'm going until 8 o'clock in the evening.
I have aggressively refused to allow my work to issue me with a laptop. Because if they do, then they will expect me to work at home. And I'm not going to.
Yeah, that's the benefit of a small business is I'm in charge of all those decisions for myself. So if I decide work needs to come home, it comes home. If I don't, and it can be tomorrow's problem, then it's tomorrow's problem. And today Ari isn't going to think about it anymore.
Yeah, the thing is that there are a lot of people at work who are happy to create tomorrow problems, and I'm one of the ones who doesn't create tomorrow problems unless they absolutely can't be avoided. But the thing is, creating a tomorrow problem in our line of work it becomes larger the longer you put it off. Like it's not just work done at a different time; it becomes a different job because of the context will have shifted. So yeah, it's I really really want to avoid putting things off, but in order to not get issued with a laptop, that's why I end up doing all this overtime at work because I want to complete everything to a go home standard before I leave the building. Because if I take a laptop with me and go home, then it will be just expect. Oh yeah, now you've got a laptop. Therefore, for electronic purposes, you are on call 24/7 now. No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to give them that chance.
Yeah, they'll ring me over the butt with that. But I generally try to finish everything that can be done in a day. If it's just the only things that will make me stop are is if I'm just exhausted and not thinking straight and know I'm going to start making mistakes, or if I'm not feeling well. Those are the only two things that will stop me from getting everything that can possibly be done before I hang it up for the day. At the very rarely I will let non-essential things like quotes that are due in several days roll over, but not always, and not usually, for that matter. I try to get absolutely everything done so that the next day can have its own problems, because every day is going to bring its own problems on top of the ones you pass off onto it. So unless I'm really not feeling well or something, I try to get everything done.
Yeah, there are some jobs that I do put off for a long time. Like I got some jobs that I need to do that are like several weeks overdue at this point, but it's simply because they take so much time and I don't have that time to do them in. So they just get deprioritized. Again, compared with things that have a very short clearance time necessary. The idea being that eventually it will reach a point that's critical enough that I can demand that time be allocated to me to actually take care of them.
Yeah.
But oftentimes I just have to wait for one of the days in my schedule to be clear enough to actually go back and do those things. Like I've got to prepare new seed cultures and stuff for the reference cultures, and it's a big job, and I'm literally the only person on staff who can do it because I would like to say I was trained. I wasn't really trained. I was shown how to do it one time, but after that one time, all of the other people left in a big group, basically. So now I'm the only person in the business who knows how to do it. Someone with like could go through the documentation, figure it out from scratch, but nobody's got the time for that. No.
We gotta what you call it, and we're gonna need him.
What does that even?
He's gonna give us a
What
buff.
does that even mean? I have not seen this before.
He gives us a buff. Which one is his? Yeah, the damage one. Sometimes you find he's like the dudes in the petting zoo. What are they called?
I can't remember.
Yeah, he's like the auspice or something.
Yeah, that's one. Auspices.
Yeah, so there's three of them in here. There's the doggo that gives you health regen, I think. There's the lion that gives you attack, and one of them gives you defense. I think it's the cat. There's a cat. They all look like that. You can steal since you're remembering tank stance now.
Well, you said it was going to get more dangerous, and it sort of didn't.
Yeah, I was thinking we were 10 floors ahead of where we were. Now, it's not lethal dangerous yet. It's just bad things can happen if we go as unga bunga as we have been. So I'm taking it a little bit slower. Because those things will explode and wipe the raid if you leave them alive too long. Stuff like that.
And so will the chests.
Well, that was a landmine.
Oh, it was a landmine.
Yeah, I was popping a frail too. It took quite a while to pop. I've been standing there for a little bit. But yeah, so that's work. It's just lots of stuff that I could complain about. But at the end of the day, my problems are solved by myself. And there's a special feeling to that, even though I'm selling, pumps to move people's poop out in the middle of nowhere. Because I'm doing it as my job, and everything at work relies on me and nobody else, I don't mind going into work every day, because it feels like I'm actually problem solving and earning my paycheck, because there's literally nobody else I could give the credit to.
Oh, believe me, I'm not under any illusions that I'm not earning my paycheck. I'm earning my paycheck and probably at least one and a half other people's paychecks as well.
Oh, one more.
Unfortunately, I don't get credited with those.
So, so yeah, I also decide my own pay. You can strong.
Wrongs.
So yeah. Next up, the big project that came up this week, and it was very spontaneous. The CPU market finally got its line in order, and the GPU market finally got its act together. And I do not trust these markets to stay good with availability everywhere. It just the nature of the way things have been going, and the nature of China's relationship to Taiwan right now, and a whole bunch of other stuff going on in the geopolitical osphere and the local political osphere. I could have played chicken with this decision and waited to see how far prices would go down, or I could just say F it and buy it now and not regret it later. And I've got money laying around, plenty of money laying around, that I just can't reasonably do anything with, and prices are only going to go up to their artificially inflated prices because of actual inflation relatively soon. So I went ahead and decided, my PC is at least half a decade old, maybe older. It would be a good time to get this squared away and buy as good a PC as I reasonably can right now. Put it all together.
Proof it against the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and enough that I won't have to think about this for the foreseeable future. And so, on what I almost consider an impulse buy, I decided to buy all the parts and build my own PC.
Yeah, most of my PC purchases, like when I say that, I mean PC rigs, rig rebuilds have been done as almost an impulse. Though the impulse in my case is usually, this thing has offended me for the last time with playing up. You're going to get rebuilt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me it's usually triggered by some event that makes it happen. But yeah, like my last one, as I've mentioned, was triggered by my RAM blowing out and me being insecure about whether my motherboard was going to just blow out RAM then continually from then on. So I just rebuilt the thing, and I've been very happy with its performance, generally speaking. I still haven't replaced my graphics card because the graphics card prices in New Zealand are still lagging behind the rest of the world. I feel like they're positioning to come down because number one, disposable income in New Zealand is way, way down due to cost of living going way, way up, and I think that that's probably true most places.
Yeah.
But the various vendors have brought in, relatively speaking, large quantities of new stock compared to what they had on hand before, but people don't have the spending power to buy it. And I think that means that they're probably just restocking for the long term, as obviously their stocking prices have gone down, and they're going to now try and turn as much profit as they can in the time that remains before they're going to have to start recognizing the drop in GPU prices.
Yeah.
But so the short version is that for me, a new graphics card hasn't come into range yet. Like for me, it would be like, for me to buy a 3060 would be the cost for you to buy a 3070 type of thing. Like I'm sort of like one class down in terms of price.
Oh man, it's dropped $50 since I bought it. I don't like.
Don't think about it. Don't think
Yeah,
about it.
I know.
Don't
I
think
know.
about it, because that always happens. It's never not going to happen. It
Yeah,
is the
I
way
know.
of the world.
I know. I know. It is. It is. It is just. It was a very real and likely possibility because I wasn't playing chicken with it. I knew this was probably going to happen, but it's still depressing when I go see it to link the build to everybody. So.
Yes.
So yeah. This thing
So
is.
you're selling on your old one to your relative, right?
Yeah, my little cousin, the not useless one, the one who, as soon as he got out of high school, went to go work at Publix and didn't be a lazy bum.
What's Publix?
Big grocery store chain.
I see.
So entry level job, but he's just out of high school. So what he do as especially as an uneducated, and yeah, I'm gonna let him just hop on me. So yeah. I'm selling it to him for 500. Most of that cost is in the GPU, which is a 1080.
Still very solid.
Yeah, still a super solid card. The only thing is the fans are a little loud. The thing, other than that, and only the GPU fans are loud for some reason. But it's an EVGA card. Normally, I've had pretty good experiences with those, but that one's fans are just super loud for some reason. Um, but yeah, I needed to offset the cost of this because this was going to be a very expensive build, and so I when I was at the office, when lunchtime ran around, I ran upstairs and I knocked on his door because he didn't have work that day, and I was like, uh, hey, you can steal again, by the way. I was like, hey, you want to buy a PC? I'll sell you my old one for $500 because I'm building a new one, and I gave him the full sales pitch. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that because he doesn't have a PC at all. He has like a Walmart box for $300.
We can't buy that sort of computer.
It is. I hesitate to call it a computer. It can barely run solitaire.
What's it for? What is it? What does it claim to be for?
Just to basically run a word processor for students.
So, internet browser and
Yeah,
email program.
yeah. It is. It can only run the most basic of things. It has like this terrible integrated graphics chip that can play very simple games sometimes. I'll go check this chest. And so he's been pestering me about helping him pick out parts to build a PC. And so I'm like, I tell you what, we'll get you started with my old box. It's not a bad box. The only thing in it is the CPU and the motherboard are ancient, relatively speaking. They're 5 to 7
Did you
years
at least
old.
clean it first?
It's sitting out there to be cleaned right now. It's on a table outside my office, ready to be cleaned and taken over. And once I take it over, I'll hook it up to my work monitor, and after work, I'll wipe the hard drives and just give it to him. See, this is one of the benefits of not being a Coomer. I don't have to go to an extensive wiping process to give it to him. I just gotta, clear it out so he doesn't have to deal with all my weird modded crap on there. And get the stuff off the hard drive so he has space.
Yeah, it reminds me of that scene at the beginning of the slime anime
Yeah.
where
Wipe
the
my...
protagonist gets stabbed and he's like tells him to throw his computer in the bath.
Yep.
This is like his dying words.
Yep. So I don't have to worry about that. A simple hard drive wipe will do it. Just to make delete the location data so he can override it all. And yeah, that'll be fine. And then yeah, he's gonna give me $500 for that, which is gonna offset the cost. This build cost me about $2,000 US. It was not a cheap build. And it was not the top of the line right now, because the top of the line right now is absolutely bonkers priced, but it is the highest middle of the line you could reasonably get. Well, mid to low, high to high middle. And it is going to last me for quite a while, I hope. It uses I posted the PC part picker in live show chat, but for the audio listeners, it is a AMD Ryzen 5 5600X with 3.7 gigahertz 6-core processor. So this is my...
None of that stuff means anything to me anymore.
Yeah. The point is it's an AMD Ryzen 5, and it's newer, and everybody says it works better, and it appears to. So processors I'm not particularly up on either. But hey, it's working. So you want to risk opening that silver in the next room, or do you want me to pop some health potions and do it?
I can do it, don't worry. I'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong?
You're gonna explode. You step on the landmine before you open the chest, so you still exploded, but not... At least it wasn't the lethal explosion. So yeah, I got the B450 Tomahawk Max motherboard. This decision was practically made for me, because it was the only motherboard that had a BIOS already compatible with the processor I was using, because that processor is like brand new. So I got the one without Wi-Fi because I would rather use a very good wireless adapter instead of an inbuilt one, or
well, there are good inbuilt ones now. It's not like it used to be.
Yeah. Well, past experience has made me go, oh, dang it. Maybe we can sneak by. He's just gonna let us go. Yeah, he doesn't care. Standard Corsair RAM, uh, 32 gigabytes total, 2 channel. Uh, one 2 terabyte SATA drive, and one 2 terabyte M2 drive. So both of them solid states. Let's see, and a 850-watt Corsair power supply with the big thing, the GeForce RTX 370 Ti 8 GB from EVGA. That was the killer, and that thing I bought for like $710 and it had dropped from like 1,200 in a weekend, well, a week actually, but it was a stupidly expensive card, and it had cratered in price, and they had a ton of stock, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go for it, and just scooped it and decided not to play chicken with it. Did you not open the chest?
Oh, I thought I clicked on it.
And then, yeah, looking at the price now, it's down to $657.99. It keeps going down.
Well, I hope that it continues to go down because I would like to get a graphics card. My current one is 6 or 7 years old now. It does okay at best. Kind of okay-ish.
Okay-ish. I'm just gonna take him for a walk while I go look for the horde because I popped an intuition. Oh, now he wants to fight. So yeah. So putting it together, all the parts got here on Thursday, all at once. They were originally going to be spread out, but because the Postal Service is the Postal Service, some things got delayed, and everything wound up here on Thursday. And so all of Thursday afternoon and evening was spent assembling this thing. And the build actually went pretty well. Nothing bad happened except for the part where I had no idea how the back plate on this particular case motherboard configuration was supposed to work for the processor's cooler. And wiggled the processor around quite a bit after I'd already put it on there with the thermal paste and reattaching the thing, and had to remove the cooler and put it back on after.
I've had to do that once before. And it's always like, is it going to work? Is it good enough? Is this seated correctly? Is that going to be sufficiently good thermoconductivity?
Yeah, because the cooler has a little jut coming out of it where it prints the AMD logo for their Wraith cooler series on it. Really obnoxious. And it was sitting right over my RAM slots. And you have to be very specific with this motherboard which 2 RAM slots you put a 2-channel RAM into.
That's normal now. All motherboards are like that now.
Yeah. You got to be super specific with the 2 you pick. And I had put them in, I think, 1 and 3, and you need to do 2 and 4 for 2-channel RAM.
Yeah, that's been my experience, is that, like, when I built my computer before the new one, most motherboards were 1 and 3, and now most motherboards seem to be 2 and 4. So either they've changed the labeling process or they've changed the way that they do the dual channel.
Yep. So this was the first shoe, was having to take the cooler off and put it back on the processor, and then having to put the memory in, and then
Be glad you got a sodding AMD, because the push pins on the stock cooler for Intel CPUs are a nightmare.
Yeah, the backplate design of the AMD makes it possible to remove it, but you need like a third arm. I had to use my leg to hold the backplate up while I held the case.
Backplates are better. Backplates are just better. That may seem bad at the time when you're trying to take it off, but believe me, it's better than push pins.
Yep. Don't stand in yuck. That's it. Don't stand near the edges of the room.
Okay.
So yeah, got all that sorted, and then got it all assembled. Nothing on the motherboard was out of the ordinary from anything I've assembled before. It's been a while since I put together a computer, but it all was familiar enough. They actually had the positives marked this time from the power supply, which was nice. Oh, not the power supply. The case had its positive things marked for its lights on the motherboard, and I was very thankful for that. But other than that, just put it together like Legos. And
But they usually marked. It's just that the way the marking is done varies a lot. Like I remember I had one once where the marking was a on the positive was a very very faintly visible raised triangle on the pin, the outside casing where the pin was that was positive. There's no indication in any of the documentation that that's what that triangle meant or that the triangle was even there. But it did turn out that all of the ones that had a triangle were positive pins. In what country a triangle is the symbol for positive, I don't know.
yeah,
But that's
these
the way it be.
these were triangles as well, and they were also not listed anywhere in the motherboard or the case's manual. But the I assumed they meant this side forward, this side is positive. So I'm like, okay, and just plugged in the single pins and it worked the first time. So must have lucked out. And yeah, booted it up, opened the BIOS up, and first problem: one of the RAM sticks ain't working. And
I've been too scared to check my RAM sticks, especially since you mentioned it, and I'm like, I remember I checked my XMP on the last build. I don't remember if I did it on this build.
all right, I load faster than people now. Quite a
No, it's not about you loading faster. It's about me scratching my foot, watching the timer tick down.
So yeah, first problem: one of the RAM sticks is dead. Now, RAM's not a problem. There's RAM. RAM is not in short supply at the moment, so you can get RAM pretty easily in the U.S. And I got it next day delivery, and it was here and installed it, and it was okay. It actually got here a day early, so it wasn't going to arrive until the following day, but it got there immediately after I got everything put together. So plug that one in, works fine, great. Old RAM, I need to call Corsair or whoever was the seller for that on Amazon, because I got it from Amazon, and see what I can do about a refund for half a thing of dead RAM. And yeah, then there was the aforementioned problem once I got everything booted up and it loaded, and I got the basic programs installed, got Windows running, and installed Windows 10, obviously, because screw Windows 11. And it was
Yeah, I've been looking for a at the options for getting a new laptop because my old laptop is very crusty now, and I need a computer with me when I travel. But they all come with Windows 11 on them. And I'm like, I don't want to feel like I'm paying for Windows 11. That seems wrong.
yeah. So I got to clear out the or rather, I got Windows 10, and it was a pain in the butt to find just a Windows 10 installer. Finding the thing that the Microsoft app that just will create a USB stick you can boot from to install Windows 10. They have buried that on the website. They want you to use Windows
Yeah.
11.
It's rough. It's rough.
But I
You
did
can
find
find
it.
it. I mean, I had to do it. I think what I did in the end, though, I think I created installation media using my laptop.
Huh.
I
Well,
think that might be what I did.
I did find it eventually by going to. I think I added Reddit to my search criteria in Google and just started going through the Reddit threads of people that had mentioned this in look for any post in 2021 or later.
Yeah,
And,
we've been through this before, though, right? When they released Windows 8, and it was a complete pile of garbage.
and nobody wanted it. They wanted to stay on Windows 7.
Yeah, but they pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. By the time it got to about like 8.2, it was quite usable. But the main reason it was quite usable is that by that point it was almost indistinguishable from Windows 7.
Well, yeah, it was back to being Windows 7. They undid all their weird Metro crap. And then yeah, after that, after installing Windows and getting all that running fine, worked great. except for the part where when I got everything installed and running, I booted up I use a whole bunch of Corsair products. My wireless headset is Corsair. My power supply is Corsair. I have a stand that routes my
We're not
audio.
sponsored by Corsair.
Yeah,
Corsair,
yeah, we're not
not
sponsored by
sponsored.
them at all. And they have given me shoddy products in the past. Corsair's definitely a hit or miss company.
I've got a Corsair. I've had Corsair power supplies for a long time. I've only bought Corsair ones for years, and they've always worked. My current case is a Corsair, and it's been pretty good. I bought it because it had rather than a case window, which I didn't want because I don't look at my PC. I got one which had sound damping foam on the inside instead, and that seems to be working pretty well.
Yeah. So the big thing I use from Corsair that isn't my wireless headphones is a headset stand, actually. And the reason I have it is to route audio from multiple devices and my computer to a single speaker without having to do any kind of complicated cable management. I just plug it all into the stand.
I didn't even know a headset stand was a thing.
I didn't either, but I'm got this thing for its audio routing capabilities. I don't put the headset on it ever.
So, so what does it actually do? Because I've never seen one before.
It is a stand that glows, and because of course it has to have RGB on it, and it has a ton of audio input channels, and you can set it to one audio output, and you can plug in just one cable into the audio output channel and route all your audio devices through that thing, so they all are simultaneously plugged in to the single speaker you want them to if they're using multiple 3.5 millimeter jacks.
I see. I mean, that sounds handy, but it also sounds like it probably exists as a standalone device that isn't a headset stand.
Yeah. So I don't know why I bought specifically this instead of an independent one, but it was eons ago when I got this thing. I've had it forever. But it comes with Corsair software, which I re-downloaded and reinstalled. And this software is handy because it's one of them all-in-one things that tracks everything in your PC if you want it to, and you can check like how your CPU's doing and stuff. Because you need a third-party thing to get an accurate read on that stuff. And so I just use...
I'm always suspicious of those things, though, that have that sort of degree of access.
Yeah. So I will copy this image and dump it into live show chat, and after we kill these patrols, you can go look at it. But my CPU, due to me mentioning I had to take the cooler off, had a bit of a problem in that with barely any load, it was running at those temperatures. It was at almost 84 degrees Celsius.
Is that not normal? Like, I don't know what normal is
That's
these days. That was like baking hot way back when, but for all I know, it's supposed to be like that now.
It's very hot. It starts throttling after 90. So we're approaching throttle from a brand new CPU. This is what it looks like now, which is much more reasonable. With a similar load, it is at 51.75 degrees Celsius. And
see.
so what this meant was I had to go flip the case over, wrestle with the back plate again, get the cooler off, go wipe off all the old thermal paste, and reapply, not like the video that one guy did for Vox or whatever. Some extra thermal paste that I just happen to have laying around to it, and then set it back on there. I just draw a very thin X with very tiny dots in between the X's when I do thermal paste. Like, I don't know if there's a proper way to do it. I'm not opening that. You can. But that's the way I've always done it, and it's always served me well, and it worked fine here. It corrected the problem. So yeah.
I guess I've never really thought about it. I've applied thermal paste myself once or twice, but normally I try and do it right the first time and then never touch it again.
Yeah, because you want that stuff sticking and holding your thing. Because it needs to be, pasty. It needs to kind of adhere a little bit to function properly.
More importantly, you don't want air bubbles and stuff, and you don't want excess.
Yeah. So, got all that going, and now my CPU is running very cool and it's very nice, and the fan's not wigging out, so I assume it's all good. And put the new RAM stick in. Figured out I had the wrong XMP profile running. Booted the BIOS back up, flipped it to the right one because they have two XMP profiles for some retarded reason, and you have to use the second one for this motherboard to get it to read the RAM at the proper speed. And then you have to manually input what the RAM speed is as well, which were not steps I knew I had to take because that was not in the manual, but never is it? So figured that out, fixed that, and now it's running like a charm. Installed Final Fantasy overnight, and came back, checked all the temperatures and all the system stuff. Everything was running great, and yeah, it's been sailing. I'm loading faster than everybody in Final Fantasy now. I accidentally aggro 3 things.
Well, you don't really look like you're loading faster than me.
Well, in Palace
Our
of the
computer
Dead,
specs are probably pretty close right now.
that and instances have fixed load times. They have a minimum amount of loading time you have to do. And
I'm trying to look for a CPU temperature monitor because I don't want to see what temperature my CPU is now. But I can't remember. I've lost my old one because it's on my old computer.
But yeah, it's a thing, and this occupied most of my free time this week. The little bit in the earlier part of the week when I had more raw time, was spent just doing a bit of Monster Hunter, and just making progress, doing the new hunts. I'll wait until Vol and Fern, or at least Vol, gets them done before we talk about them. And let's see. In Pinecone, Ninica has been the answer to all my problems I was having. I don't really talk about my Pinecone problems because they're largely optimization problems. That if Ninica did...
Also, you are absolutely top of curve on Pinecone at everything except Sweaty Clan Battle.
Yeah, because just by merit of playing consistently, you'll get there. And so yeah, I've reached a point where I am at the end game of stuff, and the only reasonable way pre-Ninica for me to solve my problems was to do very sweaty optimization. Ninica comes out, and I got first in Battle Arena. Because Crunchyroll can't localize.
I'll say it's oneth.
Yes.
Oneth sounds right.
Yes, I got 1st place in the Battle Arena for my bracket. Got a nice...
This retarded program has done that thing where, a new program starts and the bar that you would grab to drag it is behind my taskbar.
Oh, and it's below the screen?
Yeah, and I can't grab it, so I have to try and shrink my taskbar.
Can you auto-hide taskbar?
I don't know where auto-hide is now. It used to be you could right-click and click auto-hide on. But now I think I've got to go into settings. Yeah, I do have to go into settings.
Yeah, you gotta go into settings now. I don't see it on the right-click bar.
The dumbest crap. Oh my goodness, this app was a bad idea. It's just spewed a whole bunch of... It's filled my system tray up with a whole bunch of monitoring crap. Because it's monitoring all of the cores on my CPU separately. I don't have an overall temperature. But they're all in the 70s. That doesn't sound great. I guess I'm playing FF.
70 while playing a game is about average. If I open up
Core 0 is 89, Core 1 is 19. Core 1 just hit 100. This is no good. No good. But probably not that important either.
Yeah, it's also that type of data that breaks it out individually ain't that helpful. Because, yeah, I'm sure each of the cores are running incredibly hot, but what's it like after it passes the thermal paste? And what's the actual full average thing like? Like, if I open it now, because I'm, Final Fantasy, running a game, a web browser, and streaming software, I'm at 67.5 degrees Celsius.
Let's just snap it over here. Mine's kind of hot. I don't know what normal is, though. Let's just paste it in here. I mean, I haven't had any problems. I've never had any crashes or anything, so... But the problem is that when it gets to a certain temperature, it engages in automatic power throttling. That's normally what the problem with temperature is.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know anything about this stuff, and I probably won't care either way because I'm not a power user. I just want the PC to do what it does. And I'm content with that.
Yeah, I was specifically concerned about it for longevity reasons. I didn't want to burn out my processor. I wanted this thing to last as long as possible. So I wanted it fixed out the gate. And I already had the case cracked open and all the tools pulled out, so it wasn't that big a deal to go unscrew the back plate and mess with the thermal paste.
I don't even want to take those push pins out again. They're a pain in the butt. But if you've installed an Intel CPU, you'll note they don't actually put very much thermal tape on the bottom. They put like three little tiny strips of it, and that's all.
Yeah, the AMD one had a full square. It was a very, very thin full square, but it was a full square of it. So this is also my first time using an AMD CPU. I've always used Intel before this, but Abo talked me into it. He swore up and down that AMD was better, and that he liked AMD better.
Isn't he a Mac user?
Yes, but he wasn't always a Mac user. I ain't opening that.
I like to live dangerously.
Oh, you living on the edge. So,
What do you mean he wasn't always a Mac user? Like, if your knowledge about CPUs is older than about 3 months, it's irrelevant.
but yeah, the big thing that sold me on it was you can screw in the backplate, so you can correct any issues, which turned out to be handy.
Yeah, that's the one thing they've really got going for them. Back in the sort of the older era where, it was like the Athlon series and that sort of thing, they had this a really obnoxious spring clip that you needed to use a humongous amount of elbow grease to hook onto the socket. And it was terrifying. Because the way you're supposed to do it is there was a little hole at one end of the spring clip that you could jam a flathead screwdriver into, and then you had to sort of lean down on it and twist it up and around and under three little nubs that were hooks on the side of the socket, the plastic socket.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of the most common things that would break on a motherboard, was the plastic nubs would snap off, at which point the motherboard is useless. Because the spring was incredibly strong.
Yeah, the new backplate design is just better. Although it does have a really retarded way of applying it. You have to put the backplate on behind your motherboard. There's effectively a hole in the motherboard where the screws can go through, and the backplate sits on the back underneath your CPU.
Yeah,
But
I installed one on my previous Ryzen, and it was vastly superior to the experience with the Intel one. I only went back to Intel this time out because it was like slightly better price performance than the AMD one at the price bracket I was looking in.
yeah, so oh yeah, get that AOE going, and I'll figure something out.
See, I went to turn on my tank stance in case it wasn't on, and it turned out it was already on, so I turned it off instead.
Okay, minor disaster averted. If that had been a Mimic 2, that just would have been everything in one room. So you need an extra arm to manage the stupid backplate, but other than that, your foot or your knee or something can substitute for that third arm you need, because you have to apply pressure to the top of the cooler on top of the CPU so that you can actually then push a screwdriver into the pins and hold the backplate up and in the correct position. And while this is a giant pain in the butt, it is at least easy to secure and unsecure. When you do get everything lined up, everything is K.
Yeah, I don't remember having much trouble with it. I don't remember exactly what I did either.
Most of this was
Maybe I have
because
came
of
up with a good method of doing it or something.
yeah. Most of this is the case I picked. I got a fractal mesh case with a ton of optional parts in it, and that has one plate that that you mount the 2.5-inch SSDs to, that is right over where that backplate goes.
Oh, I see.
So you have
Yeah, I bought an absolutely bare bones case, and I pulled out all of the parts that were optional. Like I pulled out all of the like the hard drive cradles and stuff, like all of that sitting on my shelf now. Because I just wanted a rectangle box. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, this does not have any of the weird RGB stuff in it. It has plenty of crap in space in there for you to add stuff, and I did intentionally get a bigger case for that, and I needed to fit the GPU in there because the EVGA version of the graphics card I got is freaking huge. It's a monster, and yeah, I had to find a way to cram that in there. And yeah, it all works great. I'm loading faster than everybody in Final Fantasy now. It is a very odd feeling because usually I'm used to loading slower because the game is on an HDD for me on my old PC. Because when I tried to move to the SSD, I had problems, as you can recall, with DirectX when I did that. It doesn't like that very much.
Yeah, yeah, you were having some issues there.
Yeah, so I was running off an HDD. And yeah, eventually I just concluded I got to keep it on the HDD, and I was just used to immediately moving and running as soon as the map finishes loading or the instance zone finishes loading or whatever. But in the day and a half I've had to do this, and the roulettes I did with Ibu today, I load so much faster than everybody else. If I start moving right away, I'll be like half a room ahead of them. The only difference is like when you're running a dungeon and you have a minimum load time that they enforce on you, like these. Palace of the Dead has the special instance load time, where there's a minimum amount of time you have to load and be stuck in a load screen to even the playing field out, I guess.
I believe I still got clipped by that.
But yeah, I haven't installed anything graphically intensive to test it yet. This week was mostly just getting the thing working and secure. Only blue screened once, and it was when the adapter, my wireless adapter's drivers were wigging the heck out. They were having a few issues, and I had to give them a good hard bonk on the head. And after that, they blue screened once, and then they fixed themselves. And then I just turned them off and told them never to turn on again. And everything was okay. It's working fine now. Like, okay. Pro tip, don't unplug your wireless adapter if your current adapter driver software is wigging the heck out. It will blue screen your PC.
I need to uninstall this temperature monitor. It keeps flashing red at me, and it's making me anxious.
Yep. So yeah, it was strong. But yeah, that was the big project this week. Other media that I can talk about. I did rewatch one anime this week. Had it on the other monitor while I was doing Monster Hunter, so I wasn't really paying super close attention to it. But it's one I like the dub of a lot, so I'll mention it because this dub is a special case in that it's a happy accident. It was one of the few dubs where the ADR team really loved the original source material and actually got instructions from the Japanese people on who made it. You'll probably remember the name of the guy. I can't off the top of my head when I say what the name is. While they were making it, and it was that animu is Bakano, which helps that it's also set in 1920s America for the most part. So having American,
I never actually got around to watching it. Like, it got shortlisted a while back for me to watch it, but then I never got around to it.
I very much enjoy Bakano. Of all the critical darling animes that go around, Bakano I think is one that is actually really good and fun to watch. There's a whole lot of interesting stuff going on with it, and it's as deep as you want it to be. It can be, and in the story it's telling, it can just be a fun time, or you can do a whole lot of reading into it and try to figure out what the author was really going for. But mostly it's just a really fun show with a whole lot of really interesting characters and a whole lot of characters that are very they have very loud personalities, I guess is the word for it. And the people that made this clearly either loved the source material a lot And interviews say they do, but you know how interviews are. Or they really like 1920s mob movies a lot.
It's a lot of people that really like 1920s mob movies. That sounds way more likely.
Because they went out of their way to research like the proper slang that would be used in place of what they used in the Japanese version for to make these people sound standoffish and you know gangster. They made it very period specific.
That's gangster with a hard R.
Yeah, this we're talking Italian mobsters, not like proper mob families, not your local hood people doing their thing.
Yeah, it's like more more noir, less the Boondocks.
Yeah, you can steal by the way.
Will it save me from chests though?
No,
No, no,
does
it won't.
does not reduce damage from explosions. Um, so yeah, it's a very it is one of the series I think anybody could like dubbed more than sub because hearing American voices in an American setting with a story told by people in America, it just feels better. And
Well, less jarring, if anything.
yeah, and even though it's an anime by somebody in Japan, so there are certain you know American stereotypes that get played up. Though the modern stereotypes have less opportunity to present themselves because it's not a modern America, it's a 1920s America. It's a historical piece. Not really. It's not you know based on a real story or anything like that. It's got crazy supernatural BS going around the whole story, and
Isn't it about like it's about some immortality elixir or something, isn't it?
yeah, a bunch of people on a boat in the 1700s uh, are visited by a demon and given the elixir of life and the fallout that comes from that and several events that play out because of that told in semi non-chronological order to tell the greater story of them and what the final fate of the key players on that boat was. So it's a good story. Spoiling too much of it kind of ruins the impact it can have. So I don't want to talk too much about the story. The characters are all a ton of fun in Baccano though. I love the performances of Lad Russo specifically, who's his voice actor. I forget his name, but he's going to work with Vic. He's one of the ones going to work with Vic, and he's a crazy serial killer who works for the mob, and they just keep him around because he is blood related to the mob family, and he is very good at killing people, and that's all he can do. And he is actually insane, and not like you know insane, haha, anime funny. No, the dude is nuts.
What's the mob the mob euphemism? I think it's painting houses, right? Or something? Or is
That's
that cleaning up after a kill?
I think that's cleaning up after a kill. I a cleaner would be somebody that does the killing. I think.
No, no, there's a whole you can't say these things. So you've got to that's why they've got this extra language that they use anytime there might be anything might be recorded.
Yeah, I forget what it is for
Oh,
killing
that they
people.
can't ever be construed as admitting to doing anything.
Yeah, yeah. Organized crime back in
It's
the
something that doesn't really exist in New Zealand. Like we've got our own indigenous gangs, plus we've got the triads, and that's about it. Because yes, you have the triads everywhere. There is no country that doesn't have the triads.
yeah they're prominent in California and New York here, but otherwise they stay out of most of the other areas in the
Well,
U.S.
they've got way more competition in the US from the Italians and from the Sicilians and from the Corsicans and from the Russians and from I don't know if the Yakuza have a presence there. Probably not. They're too culturally bound. But if you're into organized crime, there's a lot of competition in the US.
So yeah, but yeah, it's a good supernatural mob story, and I thoroughly enjoy all the characters and their performances, and what they do with the story. It's a good watch. Definitely
So
worth.
sort of when I probably won't watch it unless it gets like a re-release on Blu-ray or something, and then that's the sort of situation where I'll probably pick it up when it's on sale and watch it. But I don't know who owns the distribution rights for something that old. That's the thing. Because some of these things get re-released and some of them don't, and I don't know how they decide which. Bakano is very, very popular, and it did really well on DVD sales, from what I understand. So maybe it will get redone one of these days.
Yeah, it's hard to tell with the older ones like that. It's by the guy that's did Durarara, for those that might know that series. Same dude. And Durarara is generally pretty good. It has a few head scratcher moments, but in general, Durarara is pretty good, taken in broad strokes. I would not take the Durarara story very seriously, otherwise you're going to give yourself a headache. But Bakano is much more solid and tells its story in only 13 episodes. It's a real quick watch. Does everything the Manticore type enemies do: tail swipes, claw slashes, laser beams, look away mechanic, all of it untelegraphed except the look away.
I'm going to get caught by all of it most likely.
So yeah, and that's it for the media really. Ninika in Pinecone just has got me up in Battle Arena and has made the game incredibly trivial right now.
You already talked about how you got one.
Yeah, so just kind of rolling my dailies there. Not really playing any other mobile games.
But do you have 6 stars off? Come on, man.
Oh, you're gonna chew on me.
Yes, apparently.
Well, I will attempt to take you to the far edge of the room.
Oh boy.
Oh
Instead,
no!
you took me through the biggest overlap that you possibly could have.
Oh no! I forgot they explode that big. At least they only inflict heavy. Oh, I'm gonna get hit by that one. Oh no, I'm okay. Oh no, I'm not. I lied. So yeah. Other than Monster Hunter, ain't a whole lot of other media to really talk about. I just kind of mostly spent my free time building my PC this week. Did a few days of roulettes. I don't do my roulettes anywhere close to every day. It's become close. Every other day would be generous. Oh crap!
What are you doing, my dude?
Bad things. Don't worry about it. You got this. I believe. Oh right, I forgot I had one of those going. I'm so used to the bosses in these deep dungeons being a joke literally the whole time we do them that I just wasn't paying attention to anything very hard there.
I wonder how much this hurts. Oh, it didn't go off.
But yeah, so that's been my week. I've stretched it about as long as I can. There's nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, well, that being how it is, how far were you away from 6 starring? 6 starring. Are you even going to attempt to, or is it just not a priority?
Since we had the double drops up on it, I've been dumping some stamina into the 10 attempts you get in the new thing that unlocked that gives you the material you need to 6 star. I've got Carol mostly there. I need to get the last rank, which takes 30 of those little orb things you get from the of the new Sanctum survey. That's not Sanctum survey. And then, yeah, and I need to get not shards. I got all her shards that I need, and I got her unique equipment unlocked. Because having their unique equipment unlocked is a prereq to 6 starring them. The last thing I need is the pure memory shards that come from very hard quests, which unlocked after once you start meeting the requirements for hard quests. You unlock and you get to world 18, I think. You unlock very hard quests for whatever characters are available. And right now there's only 3 quests available: Kokoro, Pecorine, and Carol, and you can get 0 to 3 shards per day. It's just like the hard quests. And
I heard that you can blow an absolutely gratuitous amount of divine amulets on it if you want, though.
oh yeah, it's 20 divine amulets per shard, and you need 50 to to 6 star. So Carol is making progress. I think she's at 18 shards right now.
Everyone's been saying, it's more of the Pinecone online community, but everybody's been saying that the best one is actually Kokoro.
Yeah, I've seen her in action in PvP, and she's really good. But my Kokoro is nowhere near being even in the ballpark of 5 stars. So she's not an option. Pecorine just hit 5 star and has nothing on her unique equipment yet. So it has a whole 50 extra shards of the extra 50 you already need to gather.
Does the unique equipment have to be maxed out completely?
Not maxed out, but you have to have it equipped.
Oh, okay. Well, I do that as a matter of course usually. Either after 3 or 4 stars, I'll usually do the unique equipment.
Yeah. So I often just don't have the hearts for it for the characters I have. I'm in a mega heart drought always. So I don't have the ability to unlock the unique equipment. But yeah, I'm working on Carol because she was already there. Because you get her crap from dungeon coins, and I cleared out the dungeon coin shop of shards forever ago.
I keep forgetting to buy them, so it's been very slow for me. Because I'll like, oh well, I'm on the can. I'll do a bunch of pinecone stuff, and then I'll finish on the can and having gotten the dungeon coins, but not actually gone to the shop to use them.
Yeah, the one of the real benefits of the dungeon shop is after you bought all the shards and you get up to purple tier items, they require a lot of shards to make, and you need a ton of them, and you're going to be stuck farming them forever. But if you're at the right level when you're doing the dungeon, purple shards can show up in the dungeon shop in multiples of 4, and you can buy 4 at a time. They cost quite a few coins, like around 1,000 dungeon coins.
But what are you going to use them on
what are you
anyway?
going to use them on? You get like 2,500 a day just from doing the dungeon. So that's how I excel.
Clear it. I can't clear them.
Yeah, well, by that time you'll be able to clear them. Or that wasn't actually when I could clear the 4th dungeon. That was only when I could clear the trash before it. I couldn't beat the boss yet. Yeah, it took me a long time to be able to get to the power level to beat the current boss of the dungeons. He hits very, very hard. Nope, we don't need anything in that room.
Gotta build up that Kuka.
Yep, Kuka has been a lifesaver for a lot of stuff. She just takes a lot of brain work out of some comps. Like, oh, there's magic damage? Oh, I need a taunt that's not on a Union Burst? Kuka. Kuka solves everything. Is there another chest in here that I don't see, or am I blind? I'm just thinking. Okay, I'm just crazy. But yeah. Just making my way through Pinecone. I'm basically in autopilot mode post Ninika because she's such a strong offensive powerhouse.
Did you prep in advance to be able to kit her out or something?
I just didn't have very many magic characters built up, so incidental magic pieces I had were just laying around.
Ah, I see.
I had to go farm a few of them during the double drop, but not very many.
Because I'm nowhere near I'm nowhere near kitting her out. I've got her reasonably kitted out. Like there's still lots of stuff that I can farm for her, but because I don't have much stuff of that tier. The Temple Trek, even though I've only got 1 rank of Temple Trek available, it's actually been really useful because it's sort of like my very best characters are at the level where that gear is useful.
Yeah. So
It's actually far more use per stem spent than actual farming on average.
Yeah. One thing I do like about the journey to 6 star any character, they get incremental stat boosts as you are ranking up their Temple Trek orb, because you need to rank it up to rank 5. So you need 10.
So it's not an all or nothing.
Yeah, it's not an all or nothing. You unlock it with 10 of them, and then you need like 15, 20, 25, 30 for the subsequent ranks. So, and every time you rank it up, they get like 50 of their main attack stat and some HP and a bit of defense. So yeah, I'm just kind of in a holding pattern, doing dailies with Pinecone right now. Do the hard event quest, kill the very hard boss, blow the rest of my tickets on the regular hard boss, and open as many boxes as I can. Just the standard, you're at the level cap Pinecone. And it's still good for can time. That's what I use it for. If I'm stuck with literally nothing to do other than, go get depressed about the news, I could do that, or I could go boot a Pinecone. So yeah. And do we have any news let me check something while we're in here. Is that thing still not dead? Okay.
My health is not doing too well.
We only need to kill a few more to get out of this floor. But let me pull up my other web browser real quick
Things are doing damage now.
and see
What
how.
even is this?
That is a very long email, Serathis. We're going to read that the next week we have Fern.
Feel bad about putting it off though.
I do, but it is a very long email, and I don't want Fern to miss out on our good buddy Serathis' wonderful commentary. Okay, exit's open. Let's GTFO. No health regen seems to proc a lot on this floor set, by the way.
Is that just your impression, or is it something that's actually
It's
true?
it's my impression and the community's impression from the people that run this floor set all the time.
Right. So what else do we have to talk about?
Right. When we're not killing a thing, because I actually have to be tabbed into the game for these and actually do my rotation properly. Otherwise, they don't die in a timely manner anymore, because stuff all of a sudden has health. And while I have soloed all the way into the 70s as a gunbreaker, I have not done Heaven on High in quite a while. Yeah, don't want it to get Baleful Roar off. I don't remember what it does, but I remember it's bad. So let's finish clearing out this room. And it's dead. Yeah, this is the floor set I thought we were going into. When we went to floor 31. Like, oh no, or 41, whatever it was. No, it's this one. So if I tab into the Discord and go back to show hosts, what do we got? We don't have much. So the first one is only really relevant to me, so I'll just keep on rolling, I guess. We have Idolmaster Cinderella Girls is shutting down a very successful rhythm game set in the Idolmaster universe on iOS and maybe Android too, I think.
Kind of old though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like as far as gacha goes.
Not that you could tell. It had it was the game that set up Cygame's current Spark system. I love, as much as their Spark system can make you really be frustrated while noodling it out, having the assurance there and having that assurance to pull whatever you want in a reasonable time frame is really nice for us Western players to get all our crap late where we can see the future.
Well, the main reason that I appreciate it is that it sort of has standardized that there ought to be one. Like there've been various pity systems in the past, but Cygames has really sort of led the charge, and because they have so many gacha games, and they've got the pity system everywhere.
Yeah,
They've made it more of a normal thing that, oh well, if you're doing a gacha game, you should have pity. So even FGO will eventually get one, even if it's kind of harsh by the standards that pity systems normally have.
Yeah, compared to Cygames, it's still barely a pity system. Like the based on the amount of primo currency you get, Cygames is stupidly generous with their Spark system, and I really really like having 3 months of saved primo currency without main story clears or whatever the equivalent is in that game, is enough to spark in every single one of their games, except for Shadowverse, but that's a TCG and doesn't really count. But they still have the pity system in that. You can spark a legendary card if you are pulling from a pack and just can't get the card you want. Yeah, we're not going to F with this. I'm just going to pop a Fortune. I'm just going to pop a Sight. And go get him, Garuda. Okay, floor's done. Run around, get
Why
the
are there
chest.
so many portals?
3 of them are traps. Which trap they are, we don't know. You can find out which trap they are when you step in them. They can be any of the traps. If no trap activates when you step in it, then it's the actual exit, and earmark that one. So yeah, but yeah, Idolmaster or Cinderella Girls is shutting down. I am sad it's gone. You couldn't tell this was an old game looking at it. It may be like a 2011 game or whatever, but it looks like a modern iOS game, and it has really good visuals for a 3D rhythm game with buttery smooth gameplay on every device I played it on. You want a strong? Okay.
I'm already strong.
Okay. So yeah, that there's not much else to the story. Just
People grieving for the loss of their waifus.
yeah, I think
Now,
so.
what happens though when your investment in that just disappears? Like that must be psychologically damaging to whales.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you think about it, everything we pay for in life is temporary. It's not potentially temporary; it is temporary. So, it's all going to go away eventually. Even physical media wears down over time. Wow, we hit every single fake one.
We're just that good.
So,
Yeah, I don't know. Like, did they have a lot of warning that this was happening? The people playing it,
I do not know. It's a
because it seems really, really harsh if you just like, oh, I'll just buy a
this
bunch
is
of
the
currency or
this
whatever.
is the long warning. Okay,
Okay, so there's gonna be like a year or something. I don't know.
March 30th of next year.
Right. Oh, it'll be interesting to see what happens to participation. Actually,
That's actually going to be hilarious because we're getting the Idolmaster crossover right when it's shutting down, and we're going to get Cinderella Girls characters in Pinecone.
oh, that's a marketing faux pas right there.
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, these guys are incredibly obnoxious because they're exclusively ranged. They won't move. Ever. So yeah, you just gotta kind of find a way to either pull them out by line of sight, which can be a little tough sometimes, or you've got to just go run in there and fight them. These guys hurt. I really don't want to try fighting pulling one as a DPS. You pull it, you'll see what I mean. They do a stacking bleed, and it gets really out of hand very fast if you chain pull in this with this floor set when you're soloing. I think you dodged the bleed, but yeah, that's pretty nasty. But yeah,
Yeah, I didn't see any debuffs go up.
it's when he does the little drill animation with his fingers. But yeah, I am sad to see it go. I enjoyed my time with the game. It took some arm twisting from Ibu to get me to try an idle game because they really weren't my thing. But the cast is fun. It has the best cast of any of the Idol Masters that I poked at since. And I don't know how much of that is, first game syndrome when it comes to a franchise. But I really enjoy all the girls in Cinderella Girls, and it's sad they're going to be going away, and the new girls are going to take over. Well, I'm sure they're not gone forever. Everybody loves those characters. It's just this game that's getting retired. They'll find a way to weasel them into everything they possibly can, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, there are people who will buy the merch, so
So yeah. It's it's what it is though. It is the life cycle of video games, especially in the digital era. The only thing that makes it feel different than, a piece of your physical media deteriorating is you're not in control of it. I'm going to steal because I'm scared.
well, that's not the only difference. I mean, the thing is that sometimes games come back, like Age of Empires 1. Like, I had Age of Empires 1 on physical media, and it degraded over time. Like, you can see holes in my disc. But you can get that again now because they brought it back.
Yeah.
So occasionally those things get resurrected. Gacha games will not be resurrected. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm really curious because I mean it's going to happen to FGO eventually, but that is a very, very long running franchise as well, with a lot of people very heavily financially invested in their account. So while it will come to an end eventually, I'm sort of curious as to, like, they're going to announce an end to it. Before they announce an end to it, they will probably announce the end to the primary story being written with Type Moon involvement, direct Type Moon involvement, and that's going to it's going to affect the levels of interest once people have got the scent of the end. And so I'm very curious as to what's the upshot of that going to be. I'm taking a lot of damage.
These guys hit really hard and blow big cooldowns if you have to.
The floor is a similar color to the circle if you can't see the edges.
Yeah, I think he got clipped by his Wrecking Ball move there. That does a tremendous amount of damage.
I don't want to go in there no more.
We can avoid those two. They're just going to kind of bobbo over there. They should be good. So yeah. This will probably be the last floor set we do because it only gets harder from here. This is where I have to really start paying attention when I'm playing.
Yeah, what else have we got to talk about?
So after we kill this Robo Patrol, I will go take a look. Because I don't want to get incinerated. These guys are free. They do a very fast cast, thin line AoE, and that's it. Oh, and a cone. But the cone is also free. So, next up, we have... Okay, I get to rag on streamers and them making big deals out of nothing. So...
To be fair, that is the streamer business model.
That is true. But, this one in particular bugged me because I know the game. And I know the game very well. Specifically in the criteria they're talking about. So, there's a challenge in Halo 2 that, basically says you have to beat the game on Legendary, all in one run, with no deaths, and you have to have every single skull turned on. Now, the skulls are insane modifiers to the game. And even if you just play on base Halo 2, there are plenty of points because the development of the campaign was super rushed that it is a dice roll whether you will live or die. And you have basically no control over it. And the Jackal Sniper areas are like this. However, these points in it are the only problems with this run, and the reason supposedly nobody's ever done it. Now, the Skulls modifiers do make things hard, like no UI and stuff, and, quadrupling enemy HP, and all kinds of weird, just insane things that make the game very, very difficult to play. And doing it all in one sitting and hoping the dice roll in your favor is all this challenge is really about, because nobody wanted to sit down and do this, assuming, and we'll get, Vol has another point he wants to bring up, but right now I'm working under the assumption that this has never been done before. The only reason it will never have been done before is because nobody wanted to sit down and fight the RNG monster that is Halo 2 Legendary, especially Halo 2 Legendary with all skulls turned on, because it is just a RNG nightmare to get through it. Now, at no point have I commented on the skill of these players. It does not take anything beyond substantial, excellent skill at shooters, which there are plenty of people in the world that can do, to play and beat Halo on Legendary or in anything else. The only thing that stops them from doing this challenge is the stupid RNG involved in select areas that are just designed badly because the campaign was rushed. And if you go in, especially with this skull setting, you can just get whopped. And that's all she wrote. And is the only reason this has any chance of not being something somebody's done before. So I don't really want to see what the big deal here is somebody's finally going to go roll the dice on it and until they finally get it. And yeah, the odds of you getting it are insanely low, but I don't think they're so astronomically low that it was worth putting a $1 billion bounty or however much this critical guy put on it to see it finally happen.
At least be real, it's just a stunt.
Yeah.
It's a promotional stunt by a streamer, like all this other crap.
Yeah. But the video game community at large, probably because nothing's really going on right now, has really latched onto this for some reason. And tried to make...
Have they, though? Or is that astroturfed?
And that's the thing, I don't know. If you told me it was astroturfed, and I would say, yeah, it's very possible. Because it looks like it could be. This critical guy apparently has a ton of reach. Like he has a huge audience. I don't know him very well. I've heard his name and know he's one of the ones that's a meme lord, but I don't know anything else about him.
He hurts.
He do. Okay. After we kill this one, I need to point out a mob type to you that's going to drive you insane every time you come in here and do this floor set. It's in the next room over. Oops. I pushed the wrong button. Okay, you see that thing on the right in the room directly in front of us? The thing that's bipedal with the big telescope on its head for a head? The,
yeah.
What's it called? Raichi Manai. I know it starts with an R. It can do that.
What?
And if you get a room full of them, good luck. I've gotten a treasure room with almost exclusively these guys before on Gunbreaker. There is no dodging that. There is nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is pull them and get them a whole room away, because that has a one-room range.
Ugh. Oh my goodness me.
Oh, there's nothing in that room anyway that I was going to. But yeah, it just doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But this critical guy is making it a really big deal, and the YouTube community and the commentariat community that follows this type of game and the competitive sphere has made it into this big, huge thing. And it does seem very artificial now that you mention it. I hadn't put the word astroturfing to it before, but that sounds like something in the ballpark. And it's been driving me nuts. Because it doesn't reflect the skill of the players involved at all. It's just an RNG fest. It does take a substantial amount of shooter skill to do it, but there's just so many people with that level of skill that's not special.
Yeah, now the reason I think it's astroturfed is because I think it is completely implausible that what they are suggesting is true. I mean, I grew up slightly before Halo was a real phenomenon. Like I was sort of like in late high school when people started playing Halo, so I didn't grow up with it per se. It was something that came along, and I was already interested in other things at that point. But I know people who did grow up with it, and Ari is one of them. And a lot of those people, particularly the ones who really had their heyday with Halo 2, they did little else but play Halo 2. A lot of them, like, Halo was their video game. Like, they didn't play video games, they played Halo. Halo 2 specifically, for a lot of them. That was their whole world as far as video games were concerned. It's just Halo. Halo, Halo, and more Halo. And I find it very, very, very unlikely that this is anything like the first time it was done. It doesn't even seem plausible to me, because you said, oh, well, the gaming community doesn't want to deal with just locking horns with the RNG monster indefinitely until they get lucky. I would contend that is in fact what the gaming community does all day, every day. Like, that's just how people play video games. A lot of people are like that. A lot of people will just smash their face against it until it goes their way. And if it is RNG, they will convince themselves that it is not RNG, and that if they do their weird superstition enough times, Onyxia will deep breath less. That's how gamers worked, especially back then, before we had tools to rip apart and data mine every little aspect of a video game. Everybody played video games like that, just smashing their face against the RNG so that they could be the first one among their friends to manage to do the thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that it is even slightly likely that this is a new accomplishment.
The fact that there are people like that is the only reason that is the big reason I think that has some possibility. But also, I could be talked into believing that it was never done, but I really think the issue is there's probably been a few people that have done it for funsies, and they just haven't recorded it because they're not a streamer.
We didn't have that. Like, recording games is a new thing. Streaming is a new thing. Like, the reason why they are able to sell this idea is that there are so many Zoomers in the audience who've never played Halo before. Or their first encounter with Halo is the Master Chief Collection. To them, Halo doesn't have a long history. But I dare you to look up which year Halo 2 came out.
No.
And see how that makes you feel.
No. Actually, I already have a pretty good time frame for it. It was late middle school, early high school for me.
Yeah, but you probably think that was last week.
You know, I still have dreams about high school being a nightmare.
I hear that follows people for their entire lives.
Like, I'll have a nightmare that I got something turned in that I didn't do.
Yeah, I have that routinely. Although for me, it's usually I forgot that I had a test or whatever.
Oh, I never get that one. It's always there was something I needed to turn in and I just didn't.
Yeah, I have that dream as well, but usually, in my case, my experience is that the dream will have the texture of nobody else realised that I didn't turn it in, and I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Holy moly, the debuffs on this floor.
No, nobody. Do we really have to keep them?
No, we don't.
Yeah, my dream is the dream always goes that I know I didn't turn it in. I definitely didn't turn it in. However, nobody has mentioned it yet. The teacher hasn't mentioned it. It's an egregious failure for me to fulfill the course requirements. But nobody seems to notice. But somebody's bound to sooner or later, and I'm just sort of going about my business, wondering when I'm going to get in trouble.
Yeah, I'm trying to optimize our petrify that I got going on right now. But
yeah, it's a dream type that everybody gets. It's probably playing on some conventional subconscious anxiety people have or whatever.
Or just it plays on the trauma that school inflicts on you because school's a nightmare.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a state-driven sort of indoctrination camp.
I'm so glad I didn't attend my senior year.
You couldn't attend. You had dysgraphia.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me tell you, I probably should let you have that since the boss room's coming up. But, oh well. At least these cuts are easy. But yeah, it's just, how do we get on that again? Right.
You had a dream.
I have a dream about being in school all the time because of how old I am.
Yes.
But
because you're old and decrepit. So that's what I'm saying is that Halo isn't a new phenomenon. How many legendary playthroughs have been done in that time for people to practice? How many, over all those many, many years since Halo 2 came out, how many attempts will have been made to be the one to secure this accomplishment?
With all skulls on, even with all skulls on, probably several tens of thousands that
I
have
would
been
say
completed.
it's likely to be more than that. Like I think that there probably only a small number of people have actually accomplished it because there's only a small number of people who will keep at it and keep at it and keep at it and keep
And
at it.
those,
There is
yeah,
there is only a small number of those people, but there is not a vanishingly small number of those people because most game is unspeakably autistic.
yeah. The other caveat is they do it has to be within the subset of people that have the skill to pull this off. Like,
Now, if they wanted me to believe their claim, they would have had to frame it in a way like, oh, everybody who has done this uses this particular, like, speedrun glitch or whatever to skip this unbelievably difficult section, and we're going to do it on camera without using that skip. Then they might have been able to sell that plausibly, because I would, not knowing about Halo, I would plausibly swallow the idea that, oh well, speedrunners have a way of hacking through the rough portion in order to get a better time.
yeah.
But
Well, they could have solved this real easy. Just say the first recorded run of this. Just put that extra word in there when you're pitching the challenge, and all of a sudden the context is clear.
the thing is that the reality of what they have done is just it's a garden variety endurance stream, such as would be conducted by any one of the streamers online that you can find. Oh well, we'll just keep doing this until we get it. That's basically what it boils down to. That
Right.
it's that type of thing. It's just an endurance stream
Right.
type
So
of
so
logic.
you pop steel and strength for this boss.
Deal on strength.
This boss is not an Unga Bunga. This boss will summon staffs around the room like the first boss at Circus Tower. Those staffs will alternate doing a circle AoE and a line AoE, and they will sometimes go in offset pairs where half of them
Where
will
will the
appear
line point?
at players, and they will pick
Okay.
one of us two to point at. It's random who they'll pick, so you need to be aware of that. Occasionally, she will summon a whole bunch of them and drop an AoE on a player, and all the ones she'll summon them in a fixed pattern at these little circles around the room in the middle here, and they'll do a donut AoE around them. You need to get in the donut after she targets somebody for her AoE. So be on the edge of the donut, so you have a safe half of the donut to run to when the AoEs all go off. And she will do Ancient Flare, which is a big burst of AoE damage. I should be able to push enough buttons to keep myself alive. We just need a dropper before it becomes a problem. So go ahead and pull the boss. You'll see what I mean as we go. Don't.
I can't remember most of that crap that you said, so
It's a whole lot of don't stand in yuck, but it's predictable yuck. It just is a whole lot of it. And she has very basic mechanics like cones and stuff. Don't worry about those. Oh, and I'd rotate Blackest Night on cooldown. Those are offset donuts, so it's going to be one donut, two donut. The next set will be lines. One line, two line. These will all be donuts. Be on the... Yep, okay. And then she'll do her big AoE damage, and then we repeat. This does not seem, and is not... Oh, right, I forgot the lines come with the big AoE damage. And now we repeat. This does not seem like a lot for a boss, and isn't. But the thing is, if you're soloing this place, you need 20 minutes on a tank to kill her.
yeah, also I don't know how to play this this class.
I don't know how to play Samurai either.
Yeah, but for you that's just a question of optimization. For me it's a case of survival. Oh crap, no. I accidentally used my Blackest Night mana on something that wasn't Blackest Night.
lines. Yeah, this boss actually requires paying attention. So you guys are going to have
Yeesh.
to live with a little bit of dead air. Because all this stuff is lethal, pretty much, if it hits you.
Don't judge me on my badness, my dudes.
Oh, they can't see what you're doing, but they can see me drifting cooldowns all over the place. And letting me cap my kinky gauge.
This is, in fact, coming in here is the first time I've ever fought any kind of boss on Dark Knight. Like, I don't play this class. It's an entire leveling process has been done via dailies. I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Most of my classes have been entirely done through, oh, goodness. I'm gonna have to pop a potion. Go, gadget sustaining potion.
Oh, no, I used up my Blackest Night mana again like a retard.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, I don't play Samurai. It may be almost level 80 after these Heaven on High runs, but all of that is doing, you know, duty roulettes every other-ish day.
Well, I didn't die.
Yep. She's the first boss where you have to pay attention. And I don't remember what the bosses are until I see them. Yep, level 80. Okay, I think that's less what we're going to do, because from here on it gets way too hard. I'll have to actually pay attention on every single pull we do if we go from here.
Okay.
So yeah.
Phew.
How's that for jumping back into the game after being rusty for a few weeks?
Oh, it's a little bit tense. A little bit tense.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to say about Halo other than streamers are bullshit, and everything they say is bullshit, and you shouldn't believe anything that they say.
I just hate when they take over the gaming community with a conversation like this, and like a significant subset of the gaming discussion for the week or the time frame when they announce something like this gets just eaten by the streamer and his stupid idea.
In a sense, it's not their fault, though, is it? It's their idiot audience. Like, at least, like, the HoloLive audience just simp. They don't try and, you know, make everything about what they are doing and what they are thinking and what their community is talking about. No. They just simp. Whereas the ones that are watching these big streamers, they just think the world revolves around their particular current event or whatever. The things that they think are the things that they think are big or important are not big and important. They are really stupid and only seem to matter because they're apparently all of them were born yesterday or something.
Yeah.
At least that's what it feels like. Like these people are all 12.
They certainly seem like it sometimes.
No, they're probably actually 12.
Well, the Zoomers, you gotta remember, like, in college now.
Ugh. Zoomers.
Yeah, we're older than you think.
I don't think about things like that.
I try not to, but I'm constantly reminded. So yeah, that it just bugs me when this happens. It's just something for me to complain about, not really anything to talk about or go in depth with. It's just, it annoys me, and I wish it would stop, but I have no control over it. People are going to do what they do.
Yeah. I feel like it belies and reinforces a mentality that is dangerous to society as a whole, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like that sort of... It is essentially a breeding ground for mob mentality, and that property can be harnessed to malevolent ends. It's a paranoid and alarmist way of looking at it, but I don't think it's correct. Because what we know is that these people who form these cults of personality, I mean, in a bygone era, Like when we were growing up, it was around celebrities and pop stars predominantly.
Yeah, but it was never this. It's like I don't
Well,
know the word for it.
it was not like this because in our generation, it was not pointed out strongly enough that that way of behaving is wrong to build your life around the comings and goings of some random person. Because at least, celebrities projected an aura like they were inaccessible. Whereas streamers don't. Streamers project an aura like you could be one of us if you simply simp hard enough.
I'm not sure what the word I'm looking for to describe this phenomenon with streamers especially is, because streamers are in the same into the same hobby as their audience. They have a significant amount of influence on what that audience does in terms of that hobby and what they purchase, and the audience
Well, it's because
therefore.
they're functionally the trendsetters for their communities. Like they can direct the actions of their people in a very direct fashion because they have a cult of personality, and setting the tone of what their people do is sort of what they do.
Yeah, and you see their what's the word for their audience abdicating their own ability to choose games based on their own personal preferences and just have it morph into whatever my favorite streamer buys and plays.
I don't know if there's a word for it. Is there a particular word exists that you're looking
No,
for, or you're
that
just hoping that there is one?
I was just kind of hoping there was one because I couldn't think of
I mean,
one.
there are a few things that can apply to it, but ultimately it's just a cult, right? Because the and whether or not it's intentional, the cult grooming process is intentional. That's the way it plays out, because they abdicate their responsibility for decision making in favor of following what the cult does, and they will other anybody who disagrees with what the cult does, and they will see as the enemy anybody who tells them that that you're acting like a retard. So there's this weird sort of hybrid between a cult mentality and the sort of addiction to this weird parasocial relationship.
Yep.
Because I mean that's ultimately the root of it, right? Is that they've formed a false relationship with someone who they don't have a relationship with. Like most cultists have a closer relationship to their cult leader than most like fanatical stream watchers to their streamer of choice. But
Yeah.
they still act as though their life hinges around what they're doing. And the thing that it reminds me of addiction is the fact that most of them don't realize that they're behaving that way, and they will protest at the suggestion that they in fact are placing excessive priority on this random person.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a very strange behavior, but it's just it's almost like an instinctive exploitation of the way people think in order to get them to behave the way you want. Like the I don't know how this sort of thing kicks off, but I can only assume that there is some sort of like charisma at work, that the people who manage to lead these bizarre cults of stream fans are just charismatic in exactly the right way to trigger all of these people to think that they should follow suit with whatever their streamer says. And one of those ways in which their charisma operates is to look very approachable, very accessible, very like, oh well, we are just like you can be like us by doing the things that we do, and then you too will be a part of this community.
yeah.
Because I mean, that's where how the parasocial thing works, right? It creates false bonds. It's why being a VTuber and simping is so powerful as a moneymaker. Like, I remember Kelly was talking a while back, a few months back, about how before tax she'd become a millionaire, and then she was grumpy because she has residence in both Japan and the US, so she gets taxed twice. So she is no longer a millionaire. All of her money disappeared into the government's coffers.
Oh, good old Callie. Yep.
But
That's the government.
the reality is that she has applied her talents and her affability as an individual and her charm as an individual to make a huge amount of money by playing off of what are essentially fake relationships. And I think the whole enterprise is ethically dubious. Like, I don't think that the VTubers are doing anything directly immoral, but I think that there is ethical dubiousness about the way that that whole thing operates. It just, the question is like, who can you blame for it? Because all the VTubers do is be charming online. They are very, very careful. The like the mainstream ones like HoloLives idols are very, very careful to never solicit money other
Yeah.
than through merch.
In fact, they'll actively tell their people, okay, please stop. You don't have to do this anymore, you know?
They're very, but the thing is that someone who is sufficiently cynical would take that as well. All that they've done is that their internal metrics show that this type of behavior encourages rather than discourages donations compared to active grifting. Like, you could take that interpretation and it might not be wrong either. But yeah, it's like, where does the blame lie for the cultivation of these parasocial relationships? Because I think in most cases the initial intention is not to create them. However, they are parasitic on people and do a lot of like social and emotional harm to people, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And that's just the way of things.
It's a, when people are, it's a phenomenon I have trouble understanding because I never got into the streamer thing. There was an elephant on my head. But it just, I never understood the appeal of watching streamers stream. I tried it for a little bit and I couldn't get into it. I just didn't care that much about what even people whose personality I liked were playing because I already had the games I liked. And if I wanted to play them, I just go play them. Just go.
Yeah, it's pretty rare for me to watch a stream. I do it on occasion, but it's usually if I'm actually actively watching a stream, it is about the most inactive form of active watching that you could possibly do. Like, my brain is actually switched off because I'm so tired that it's just, background noise so I can't hear the silence. Because I'm not ready to sleep yet, but I'm not really fully awake. Like, the bulk of me watching streaming is just, oh well, it's like background chatter, like having the radio turned on while you're working type of thing.
Yeah, and I'll do that. Sometimes I'll turn the Hololive girls on for that. Very rarely I'll turn on a full stream. But that's why even with Hololive, I watch the clip shows from them. I don't watch their actual streams hardly ever.
I will watch like 2 or 3 clips a day, sort of thing, that roll to the front of my recommends, because honestly, I admire how good at clickbaiting the clippers are, because they are very good at it. Like, I feel like there's being an organically honed talent here, which will be very dangerous in marketing in the future. But I do watch a lot of streams, but when I say watch, I mean that in only the most sort of tenuous relationship to watching imaginable, and it's just because I like the background noise. And will usually just turn on someone who I think, is got a soothing enough voice not to be overly distracting from what I'm actually doing. But it's just like, oh, well, this is the option if I'm too tired to think, because I will usually put informational stuff on in the background, like a theology lecture or a discussion of some conspiracy or something like that, like whatever takes my fancy. Stuff with data content, I'll put on in the background if I have the wakefulness. If I don't have the wakefulness, might be something like a stream. Usually someone like Ina or Fauna who doesn't have an abrasive voice and won't make me want to strangle them.
Or Gura, who will make you want to look over to see what she's doing badly and then want to kill her.
I want to strangle Gura all the time. Like, every time, like, I can't work out how much of this is actual short brain and how much of it is like she's playing it up, because she does some really dumb things, like really, really dumb.
She's gonna vacuum all the sand.
Well, that's something that is hypnotic in a different way. I don't classify that as a dumb thing. That's not a short brain thing. I mean, like, her spending 15 minutes searching a room for an object that is obviously just sitting there in the middle.
Oh yeah,
because she's not really looking at the stream. I mean, she's not really looking at the room. She's just sort of like spacing out, but complaining the entire time about not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it feels like she's just filling time, but I don't know for sure. There are people out there who are that short brain. I know from experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I don't really watch Gura. Gura's good for clips and not great for streams. I find Ina and Fauna make better streams, in my opinion.
Fauna's about the only one I can watch, although her ohs get really obnoxious after a while.
I make those sorts of noises when I'm working, so I didn't even notice until you pointed it out.
That
Like
noise.
the making that noise when I'm trying to figure something out is something that I do on like at least an hourly basis when I'm working.
If if I'm working, it will and my brain gets overloaded and needs to make noise. It will start the language center of my brain will take the job and just start borrowing my mouth for a bit, and I'll start talking to myself.
I talk to myself constantly, but probably I talk more often to the equipment. Like that's usually where my ire is directed.
It's it's
But
it's usually not ire. It's usually me going, okay, where do you go? And I'll be holding like a plug for something that's supposed to go somewhere, or that number doesn't look right. Oh no, you need to go into this field, you silly little dollar value. And I'll be talking to it like it's a real
silly little
person.
dollar value. What are you, an elderly woman?
I'm censoring myself for stream here for what I actually call it. But
I see. Yeah, my usual fill-in noun is actually you wee bastard. I don't know why it is you wee bastard. That's not something that I say in normal conversation, but because I'm not quite that British, let alone Scottish,
I
although I
see.
have Scottish blood. But I do call them you wee bastard, and it to some extent it's also because I work with living things, so it makes more sense to characterize them in that way.
I'm
But
always paranoid because my go-to verb for to describe turning something off
have
when
your
I'm
ears, Susan.
yeah is kill.
Yeah, we are not suggesting that we do anything to anybody outside of Minecraft.
Yeah, we are. But if I want to turn off something or I want to delete something, I will. If I'm talking to myself, I will say I will kill it.
But that was normal. That's normal IT parlance, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But remember, I'm not in IT anymore. I'm in
I
account.
remember there
account
was a sexual harassment scandal over somebody having a discussion with somebody else about dongles.
yes. So I will talk about this stuff in forms of like I need to kill this table or I need to kill this value or I need to kill this old version of the quote or kill this particular component in the system and replace it with something else. And I'm always paranoid when I start talking out loud. Somebody's going to hear me and think I'm about to go murder everybody.
Yeah, so I think that the whole culture is incredibly dangerous and toxic, and I don't know what's going to bring it to an end.
I don't
I
think it
don't I
is.
don't think that it's some I, no I don't think that it's something that can last indefinitely. It's just a question of whether it becomes the cause of society's collapse or whether society collapses on its own first.
I don't think it exists in its current form forever. But I think this type of false relationships that you can so easily have, as long as a communications network is in place like this to make it so easy, like the internet.
Well, that's the thing though. This is a long time in the making. It's a product of a lack of real time face to face relationships is what causes this thing to emerge because humanity has become aggressively siloed like this, and you've got the likes of the Black Rocks of the world trying to silo humanity even more into individual bubbles, and
I'm not eating the bug
as
burger.
that becomes as that becomes more exacerbated, people desperately try and fill the social quota that they need in order to not go completely insane from whatever sources they can. And that is essentially what streamers are for. They are friends that you can switch on because you don't have anybody else to talk to. I mean, I'm more or less in that situation. All of my friends left this country. I don't have any left.
Yeah.
So all of my friends are now online. That's it.
Yeah, but there's a difference between interacting with somebody actively, doing things with them, having actual discussions with them, wanting to get on and talk to them or do something with them, and turning them on the other monitor and just letting them do their own thing and
Well,
think,
that's the thing. I'm saying that this is an evolutionary state, right? So first of all, you've got, oh well, I don't have time to go see my friend. I'll call them on the phone and see how they are. And that's like the first step. And then eventually you've got sort of like exclusively online interactions done by instant messenger or whatever. And then as you move along from that, you've got sort of like, oh well, you're eventually going to get at the stage where the interaction is then you're going to get to the stage where you've got Facebook, right, where you have a whole bunch of people that you are now designating your friends, but you have no actual interaction with them, but you do see their likes occasionally,
I could
so you
never
know that they are
cross
living
this line.
people. And then from there on, you get to the streamer stage, where there is this person who has no interaction with you, has no interest in interacting with you, and you actually already know that they are not going to interact with you on an intellectual level, at least. Your sort of like hindbrain might not realize it, but you know intellectually that this person has no bearing on your existence, and you have no relationship to them whatsoever. But you still plug them into the relationship slot because there's not really anything else to go there.
Then there's the next step where we just have people marry and they're sex robots.
Yeah,
With
like from a like a hedonistic point of view, I could sort of grasp that, but next to, in a certain sense. But like, there's those people that marry their duckies.
yeah, there are people that do it
By which I
seriously
mean a
too.
body pillow. I don't mean anything racial by that, Susan.
Yeah, I and there are some people that do it legitimately, at least on all appearances, because they're
But
actually that crazy.
that's like complete social disintegration at that point, right? And Japan has it in a very bad way, partly because they're consumed on one end by work culture, and that's unique to Japan, where they don't do anything but work a lot of the time, and on the other end they're being consumed by the collision of their traditional culture with Western culture and taking the worst parts of both. I mean, that's what the late great Shinzo Abe was most famous for, right? Trying to get people to go outside and breed, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a phenomenon. I don't know where it's going. I don't like where it's going. I could never cross the line jumping from online interactions to Facebook. That was a hard line for me that I never ever could cross because the personal level wasn't there. And when I lost that, I just didn't care anymore.
Yeah, I didn't cross that line because I didn't make a Facebook. I never intellectualized it. It was just like, oh well, there's actually no value. There's no value here.
Yeah,
This doesn't matter.
I,
There's
I
no reason to do it.
I made one to have one, and then posted on it occasionally a few times with some cringy teenager and early college rants, and that's all I used it for. And then I deleted it. And that was like we're talking
I
sub
think that I
10
made
posts.
one. I think that I made one, but I never posted on it because I didn't know how, and I had just made it to sign up to something that needed it, or something.
Yeah, because there started to be websites that needed it or people that would ask you for yours. So when you're a college student, you're like, okay, I got to get one.
When I was in university, somebody asked me to make a Bebo account, and so I did, but I don't think I did anything with it.
I forgot Bebo was a thing.
I don't actually know what it was or what it was for. I only made it because somebody asked me to, but I presume it was something like an early Facebook competitor or something.
Yeah. So see, I could never cross that line. Immediately, I recognized there was no value in this type of media, this type of social media. The relationships and interactions you were having were hollow, and I just didn't care.
Yeah, I think I never got there because my brother, despite being younger than me, we were treated by our parents as though we were contemporaneous. So we always did the same things at the same time. And he always talked about his friends, and he didn't use a different word for friends that were random people he met playing StarCraft and people he knew in real life. And that struck me as so unnatural that I sort of stopped talking to people online because it seemed really weird to me from then on. Like random people online, I shied away from talking to them. I don't even know how I ended up involved in VTW because it was a long time that I had just not talked to people online because it was seemed so bizarre to me.
And then you ran into me, and it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why that actually happened. I think I probably just randomly joined Ventrilo one day because I was bored or something like that. Because at least on Ventrilo you're talking to people's voices.
Yeah. But yeah, I could never make that jump from internet personal interactions the generic social media sphere. And every step down from there has just been me looking on from a distance, going, yeah, no, not going there. You guys have fun with that, I guess, if fun's what you even call that. I can
You
make my
young
own.
whippersnappers.
I can make my own decisions. K, thanks. I don't need some streamer to help me with them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that they perceive it that way. I think that it's just to them, it's that everybody in my friend group is doing the same thing because those stream communities have taken the place of friend groups for them.
Yeah,
Like when Aristeel's form of stupidity is to go get a steak knife and then go downtown and climb the Capitol building, like that's just a different type of stupidity that involves people you actually know.
and a whole lot more memorable, I might add.
Most people will never do that. At
It,
least I hope most people never do that. Maybe in America that's really common. I don't
no,
know.
as far as I know, we're the only people that have set literal foot on top of the Capitol building in a long time. That thing's gold, solid gold plated.
Are you sure it's not just really polished bronze or something?
No, it's got gold up there. Most of it's actual gold. It's a very thin layer of gold, I'm pretty sure, and it's just plating, but it's still gold. At least they claim it is. Who knows with the government? They could be lying.
Gold paint.
Not that I would remember because of certain imbibed substances at the time. How did I get up there?
You never explained that part. You just said that you climbed up there.
I remember jumping through, not actually, yes, literally jumping across rooftops.
But yeah, no, the when it comes to deciding what idiotic behavior you're going to engage in with your friend group now, I think people have just substituted the stream community for the friend group, and it just so happens that all of these stream communities are structured with a charismatic, undisputed leader at the top who can get the others to do what he wants.
Yeah, it's it can be for whatever reason it is, but at the end of the day, it is too alien to mindset for me for how I've always lived my life to be able to fully understand.
Yeah, I mean, I know that that everybody is influenced by these things, and I know that I went back and did another playthrough of Skyrim after putting on enough VTubers in the background doing Skyrim. It's like, you know what? It's been a while since I played that. I kind of want to dip my toe in again. So that sort of influence that can take place on an innocuous level as well. But then you get these sort of stream communities where everybody can turn on a dime and follow the trend that has been set by their master.
Yeah, any type of media you consume, or anything you watch, even if you don't follow the person, if like that guy that was I'd never heard of before and haven't watched another video of since that had the voice mod for Skyrim almost made me want to go back and play Skyrim just because it was on my brain after I laughed my butt off at him. You can be influenced by anything. But what these streamers do is, and the influence they have is different on these kind of ideas that mimetically circulate around their community. Because
Yeah, I guess I haven't looked at them too carefully, but I don't see how something can become like a phenomenon with the speed and scope of something like Five Nights at Freddy's without there being like this really aggressive social contagion at play that happens to have been harnessed by somebody.
yeah. So yeah, we've been going a bit long on this one. So we're at 3.5 hours. We should probably start
Again?
wrapping up.
Good grief. We really need Fern back.
Yeah, we tangented on too many micro tangents throughout that whole thing. And the other one I don't have much detail on, so I'm just going to skip the other article I linked. And we should probably start wrapping up. So,
Yep. Well, we'll have Fern back next week. Hopefully, I'm in for a rough week, so I probably won't be very helpful. And don't even have that much of a weekend since tomorrow is a holy day of obligation on New Zealand Catholic calendar for the Solemnity of Our Lady of the Assumption. So I have lost tomorrow evening because I'll be at church. So my rest time is curtailed for this weekend, and I have got a brutal week coming up. Maybe a miracle will happen, and we'll subcontract a bunch of our stuff to Auckland, because apparently that's what we're planning to do to try and get some more sort of slack in our manpower requirements for this period so that people can take leave before the Christmas rush. But yeah, I'm probably going to be wiped out by next week as well.
So yeah, hopefully y'all don't have to deal with the Ari solo show. That would be fun.
I don't expect I'll be so wiped out I can't show up for the show unless I get sick because of exhaustion, which is actually the number one cause of sickness at my workplace. But yeah,
So yeah, I'll don't foresee anything getting in the way of the weekend, so I'll be here like I have been the past while. Um, Actually, I haven't missed a show in quite a long time. So
yeah, I've only missed a few, but I'm not sure exactly what occasions they were. I know that for the longest time I hadn't missed any. I went for quite a few years without missing a single one. But then I had to miss one because I was going to be somewhere or something that I couldn't get to a computer.
oh, the dream is alive. I could potentially get 3 lines in this notebook. It's not a dead notebook.
I completely forgot notebooks existed. I'm very lacking in diligence when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Woot. That means I can reset 2 trials that I can solo and get this notebook done and turned in on something. Cool. Alrighty. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed me showing off the new swimsuit and showing off him on high and us rambling about random crap. So, where are you? Where did you go? Why are you? Oh, you're doing dailies. I'm like, where is he? I've been sitting here with scroll lock and no UI turned on. I didn't see where you went.
Yeah, I feel well. I'm in the zone, and they're right there. So
All right, folks. So, if you want to get your summer sexy on, you can go do the event going on right now too and get the same swimsuit. It is.
oh my!
It is. It is what it be. Can I apply the?
You said it had extra boob physics.
It does. I can demonstrate if I walk slowly. You will notice
because your character is not flat like mine.
Yes, you will notice they got about a whole quarter second to about a third of a second of before they fully stop. So, all right, folks. I think we're done. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.